Hello there, my fellow bedtime scientist. Before we begin our journey into the captivating world of dreams and the sleeping brain, I'd love to know where in the world you're listening from and what time of day it is for you right now. I love learning how far our community of soothing science enthusiasts stretches. If you enjoy calm, historical storytelling like this, I invite you to subscribe so you can drift off to many more relaxing tales. Now, as you settle in and make yourself comfortable, let's set the stage. Imagine for a moment that you're lying in bed at the end of a long day. Your eyelids grow heavy as sleep gently tugs at the edges of your consciousness. Slowly, you feel yourself letting go, slipping into that mysterious realm between wakefulness and dreams. With each breath, you descend deeper into relaxation, leaving the waking world behind. As you surrender to sleep's embrace, your mind embarks on a fascinating journey into the land of dreams. It's a place we all visit every night, yet it remains one of the great enigmas of the human experience. For centuries, dreams have captivated us, inspiring countless questions about their origins, meanings, and purpose. Do they arise from within our own minds, or are they messages from beyond? Can they offer glimpses into the future? Or do they merely reflect our past? Are they simply random firings of a slumbering brain? Or do they serve a crucial function in our well-being? These are just some of the tantalizing questions that have intrigued humankind for ages. And over time, through the diligent efforts of scientists, sleep researchers, and dream explorers, we've slowly begun to unravel some of these enduring mysteries. Like adventurers charting a new world, they've mapped the landscape of the dreaming mind, revealing its contours, its hidden depths, and its breathtaking beauty. But the journey is far from over. Even with all we've discovered about dreams and the sleeping brain, there's still so much more to learn. Every night as we close our eyes and drift off, we venture into uncharted territory where the rules of the waking world don't always apply. It's a place of boundless creativity, where the impossible becomes possible and the ordinary transforms into the extraordinary. So tonight, as you prepare to set sail on your own voyage into the realm of dreams, we'll be your guide. We'll explore the history of dream research, from ancient beliefs to cutting-edge science. We'll meet the pioneering researchers who dedicated their lives to understanding this nightly phenomenon. And we'll delve into some of the most captivating findings and theories about why we dream, what our dreams might mean, and how they reflect the inner workings of our remarkable brains. But don't worry, there won't be any tests or quizzes. This is simply an invitation to let your curiosity roam free as you unwind and let sleep gently take hold. So go ahead and get cozy. Maybe dim the lights or brew a soothing cup of tea. And if at any point you feel your eyelids growing heavy or your mind starting to wander, that's perfectly all right. After all, that's what we're here for. To help you relax, let go, and drift off into a peaceful slumber. Now let's begin our story at the very dawn of human history, when our earliest ancestors first started to ponder the enigma of dreams. For them, the nighttime world of visions and fantasies was a deeply mysterious place, one that seemed to blur the boundaries between the real and the unreal, the natural and the supernatural. In countless cultures across the globe, dreams were seen as messages from the gods or as prophetic glimpses into the future. The ancient Egyptians believed that dreams contained vital clues about one's destiny, and they even compiled dream interpretation manuals to help decipher their hidden meanings. Similarly, in ancient China, dreams were thought to be journeys of the soul, where one could communicate with spirits or divine the future. But not everyone saw dreams as purely supernatural affairs. The great Greek philosopher Aristotle, who lived in the 4th century BCE, had a different idea. He suggested that dreams might actually arise from within the self, rather than from divine sources. In his work, On Sleep and Sleeplessness, he wrote that dreams were not sent by the gods, nor are they of divine origin. Instead, he proposed that they were the result of sense impressions that persisted after waking. Aristotle's musings were remarkably prescient, foreshadowing some of the insights that modern science would later confirm. But for centuries after his time, the prevailing view remained that dreams were messages from beyond, to be unraveled and interpreted for their hidden meanings. It wasn't until the early 1900s that dream research truly began to come into its own as a scientific field of study. And the man who arguably did more than anyone to usher in this new era of dream exploration was none other than the famous Viennese psychoanalyst, Sigmund Freud. Freud's landmark work, The Interpretation of Dreams, published in 1900, sent shockwaves through the intellectual world and forever changed how we think about dreams. In it, he argued that far from being random nonsense or divine messages, dreams were actually deeply meaningful expressions of our unconscious minds. According to Freud, every dream contained two levels of content: the manifest content, which included all the bizarre and seemingly nonsensical imagery we actually see in the dream, and the latent content, which represented the hidden psychological meaning of the dream, often rooted in childhood experiences or repressed desires. To illustrate his theory, Freud famously analyzed one of his own dreams, which became known as the Irma's injection dream. In it, he dreamed that he was at a party and encountered a patient of his named Irma, who was suffering from pains. Upon examining her, he discovered a large patch of white scabs in her throat and called in a colleague for a second opinion. The colleague then gave Irma an injection with a dirty syringe, saying it would be all right if she developed an infection. For Freud, this strange and unsettling dream was a window into his own unconscious mind. He interpreted it as an expression of his guilt over mishandling Irma's case in real life, as well as a manifestation of his repressed sexual desires and fears of inadequacy. Whether or not one agrees with Freud's specific interpretations, there's no denying the profound impact his ideas had on the field of dream research. By putting forward the radical notion that dreams came from within the dreamer's own psyche and reflected deep, often hidden aspects of the self, he opened up a whole new realm of scientific inquiry. But Freud's views didn't go unchallenged. One of his most famous contemporaries and former disciples, Carl Jung, developed a very different theory of dreams. While Freud saw dreams as expressions of personal, individual desires, Jung believed they sprang from a much deeper source, the collective unconscious. According to Jung, in addition to our personal unconscious minds, all humans share a universal inherited reservoir of ancestral memories and archetypes. He believed that dreams were a way of tapping into this vast storehouse of ancient knowledge, and that the recurring symbols and motifs found in dreams across different cultures were evidence of this shared human heritage. For example, Jung was fascinated by the idea of the wise old man archetype that appeared in so many myths and fairy tales around the world. He saw this figure as a manifestation of the collective unconscious, representing the accumulated wisdom of the human race. While Jung's theories were more mystical and less scientifically grounded than Freud's, they nevertheless had a profound influence on the popular understanding of dreams. The idea that dreams contained universal symbols and could be interpreted using a kind of universal dream language became widely popular, giving rise to countless dream dictionaries and interpretation guides. But as dream research continued to evolve throughout the 20th century, scientists began to move away from these more speculative, symbolic approaches and towards a more empirical study of the dreaming brain. And one of the most pivotal discoveries in this new era of dream science came in the early 1950s, when a young graduate student named Eugene Aserinsky made a startling observation. Working in a sleep laboratory at the University of Chicago, Aserinsky was studying the sleep patterns of infants by hooking them up to an electroencephalograph, or EEG machine, which recorded their brain waves. One night, as he watched his own 8-year-old son Armand sleeping in the lab, he noticed something strange. The boy's eyes were darting back and forth rapidly beneath his closed eyelids, almost as if he were looking at something. Intrigued, Aserinsky connected his son to the EEG machine and saw that his brain waves looked very different during these periods of eye movement than during the rest of his sleep. He had stumbled upon a brand new stage of sleep, one characterized by rapid eye movements, or REMs. Further studies confirmed that REM sleep was a distinct stage that occurred in regular intervals throughout the night, and that it was associated with vivid, often bizarre dreams. Asarinsky and his colleagues theorized that the rapid eye movements were a sign that the sleeper was literally watching their dreams unfold, like a movie playing out on the screen of their mind. The discovery of REM sleep was a watershed moment in dream research. It provided concrete, measurable evidence that the brain was doing something very unique and specific during dreams. No longer were dreams seen merely as symbolic messages to be deciphered. Now they were a distinct neurological phenomenon to be studied and understood. Over the next few decades, sleep laboratories around the world began to explore the nature of REM sleep and its connection to dreaming. Volunteers would spend nights hooked up to EEG machines and other monitoring devices, while researchers watched their brain waves, eye movements, and other physiological signs. One of the pioneers in this field was the French neuroscientist Michel Jouvet. In a series of groundbreaking experiments in the 1960s, Jouvet studied the sleep patterns of cats and discovered that they, too, experienced periods of REM sleep accompanied by rapid eye movements and twitching limbs, almost as if they were acting out their dreams. Jouvet went on to study REM sleep across a wide range of animal species, from rats to monkeys to humans. He found that REM sleep appeared to be a universal feature of mammalian sleep, and he theorized that it played a crucial role in brain development and maintenance. According to Jouvet, REM sleep provided a kind of offline time for the brain to process and consolidate new information, free from the distractions and demands of the waking world. He believed that during REM sleep, the brain was essentially programming itself, strengthening new neural connections and pruning away old ones. Jouvet's work helped to establish REM sleep and dreaming as crucial components of healthy brain function. But even as the neuroscience of dreaming was becoming clearer, the question of what exactly dreams were for remained a subject of intense debate. Some researchers argued that dreams were essentially meaningless byproducts of random neural firing during REM sleep, with no real function or purpose. Others believed that dreams played a vital role in memory consolidation, emotional regulation, and even problem-solving. One intriguing line of evidence for the latter view came from studies on the relationship between dreams, memory, and learning. A number of experiments in both animals and humans suggested that REM sleep and dreaming were important for consolidating certain types of memories, particularly emotional memories and procedural skills, like riding a bike or playing an instrument. For example, in one famous study from 2000, researchers at Harvard Medical School trained volunteers to navigate a complex virtual maze. Some of the participants were allowed to take a 90-minute nap after the training, while others stayed awake. The nappers who reported dreaming about the maze performed significantly better on subsequent tests than those who didn't dream or nap at all, suggesting that dreaming had helped to solidify their memory of the maze. There are also countless anecdotes throughout history of people having breakthroughs or inspirations in their dreams that led to major discoveries or creative works. One of the most famous examples is the story of August Kekulé, a 19th-century German chemist who was struggling to determine the molecular structure of benzene. According to legend, Kekulé fell asleep one afternoon and dreamed of a snake biting its own tail, forming a ring. He awoke with a start, realizing that the benzene molecule must be a ring of 6 carbon atoms, rather than a linear chain as previously thought. This insight revolutionized organic chemistry and paved the way for countless new discoveries. Of course, not all dreams are quite so productive or insightful. In fact, for many people, dreams can be a source of great distress or anxiety, especially when they take the form of nightmares. Nightmares are a remarkably common experience, affecting up to 85% of adults at some point in their lives. While everyone's nightmares are unique, there are some common themes and images that tend to crop up again and again, such as being chased, falling, or finding oneself naked in public. Research has shown that certain factors such as stress, trauma, and anxiety are strongly correlated with more frequent and intense nightmares. In one famous historical example, the English diarist Samuel Pepys recorded a series of vivid anxiety dreams during the Great Fire of London in 1666 as the city burned around him. Pepys wrote of dreaming all night of the fire and myself and all my friends and relations being continually in danger of being burnt. His dreams were so disturbing that he noted, "I lay in pain and misery, hardly able to sleep a wink all night." For some people, nightmares can become a chronic and debilitating problem, interfering with sleep and causing significant distress. In recent years, researchers have developed a number of treatments for chronic nightmares, such as image rehearsal therapy, which involves practicing new, more positive endings to recurrent nightmares while awake. But not all unusual dream experiences are negative. In fact, one of the most fascinating and mysterious types of dreams is the lucid dream, in which the dreamer becomes aware that they are dreaming and can sometimes even control the dream's content. The term lucid dreaming was first coined by the Dutch psychiatrist Frederik van Eden in 1913, but the phenomenon has been recognized for centuries in various spiritual and mystical traditions. Tibetan Buddhists, for example, have regarded lucid dreams as a path to enlightenment for over 1,000 years, using them as a tool for meditation and self-discovery. In the West, lucid dreaming remained largely a curiosity until the 1970s and 80s, when the American psychophysiologist Stephen LaBerge began conducting groundbreaking experiments on the topic. LaBerge himself was a skilled lucid dreamer, and he developed techniques for verifying the reality of lucid dreams under laboratory conditions. In one famous experiment, LaBerge and his colleagues trained lucid dreamers to perform specific eye movements while dreaming, which could be detected by sensors and used to communicate with researchers in the waking world. This allowed LaBerge to confirm that lucid dreamers were indeed conscious and aware during their dreams, and not just remembering them after the fact. Since LaBerge's pioneering work, research on lucid dreaming has exploded, with scientists exploring its potential applications in areas as diverse as creativity, problem-solving, and even the treatment of PTSD. Some lucid dreamers have reported using their dreams to rehearse skills, overcome fears, or explore new ideas in a safe and controlled environment. But lucid dreaming is just one example of the many ways in which the dreaming brain continues to surprise and intrigue us. As research on sleep and dreams has expanded, scientists have begun to explore the dream lives of other animals as well, from our closest primate relatives to creatures as far removed from us as birds and octopuses. The results have been fascinating. Many species, it turns out, show signs of REM sleep and dreamlike brain activity, suggesting that dreaming may be a much more widespread phenomenon than previously thought. In the 1960s, the French researcher Michel Jouvet conducted a series of famous experiments on cats in which he surgically disabled the part of their brains that normally paralyzes the body during REM sleep. When these cats entered REM, they began to move around and behave as if they were acting out their dreams, chasing invisible prey or arching their backs as if in fear. More recently, researchers have found evidence of REM-like sleep in a wide range of species, from platypuses to lizards to cuttlefish. While it's impossible to know for certain what, if anything, these animals are dreaming about, the fact that they exhibit similar brain activity to humans during sleep suggests that dreaming may serve some important evolutionary function. In fact, one of the most compelling theories about the purpose of dreams is that they play a crucial role in brain development, particularly in early life. Studies have shown that human infants spend a huge amount of time in REM sleep, up to 50% of their total sleep time in the first few months of life. Some researchers believe that this intense dreaming activity is essential for the developing brain, helping to establish and refine neural connections and prepare the infant for the challenges of the waking world. In other words, dreams may be a kind of training ground for the brain, allowing it to practice and perfect important skills and behaviors. This idea is supported by the fact that many species exhibit unique dreaming patterns that seem to reflect their particular ecological needs and challenges. For example, bottlenose dolphins, which need to surface regularly to breathe. Show unihemispheric sleep, in which one half of the brain remains active while the other half rests. This allows them to continue swimming and avoid drowning while still getting the benefits of REM sleep. Similarly, some birds exhibit a form of micro-napping during long flights, in which they take brief bouts of REM sleep lasting only a few seconds at a time. This may help them to stay alert and avoid collisions while still getting some of the restorative benefits of sleep. But even with all these fascinating glimpses into the dreary, as we've seen, the discovery of REM sleep in the 1950s marked a major turning point in our scientific understanding of dreams. But long before modern sleep labs and EEG recordings, a few intrepid minds sought to unravel the mysteries of the dreaming brain. One of the most influential early dream researchers was a man named Frederik van Eeden. Born in the Netherlands in 1860, Van Eeden was a true Renaissance man, a physician, psychologist, and writer who moved in prominent artistic and intellectual circles. As a young medical student, he became fascinated by dreams and began meticulously recording his own nocturnal visions. In 1913, Van Eeden published a groundbreaking article in the Proceedings of the Society for Psychical Research. Titled A Study of Dreams, it was in this paper that Van Eeden first coined the term we still use today for the peculiar experience of realizing one is dreaming within the dream itself, lucid dreaming. Van Eeden described lucid dreams as a very singular and exceptional state in which the reintegration of the psychic functions is so complete that the sleeper remembers day life and his own condition, reaches a state of perfect awareness, and is able to direct his attention and to attempt different acts of free volition. In other words, during a lucid dream, one becomes aware that one is dreaming while still asleep. Some lucid dreamers even learn to exert control over their dream environments, conjuring up fantastical adventures or consciously facing their fears head-on in the safety of the dream world. Over the course of 352 recorded nights, Van Eeden experienced 352 lucid dreams himself. He documented dreams in which he flew effortlessly through the air, conversed with long-dead friends and family, and even attempted to plumb the depths of his unconscious mind for inspiration and insight. But despite his pioneering work on lucid dreaming, Van Eeden's ideas were met with skepticism from much of the scientific establishment of his day. It would be decades before researchers developed methods to empirically verify the reality of the phenomenon he had described. That breakthrough came in the late 1970s at Stanford University's Sleep Lab. There, psychophysiologist Stephen LaBerge devised an ingenious experiment, one that would prove once and for all that lucid dreams were not merely a figment of the imagination. LaBerge himself was an accomplished lucid dreamer, capable of realizing he was dreaming and signaling that awareness to the outside world. He did this by moving his eyes in a prearranged, distinctive pattern while in the midst of REM sleep, left, right, all while his brain waves were being measured. By matching the eye signals to the EEG readings, LaBerge was able to confirm that lucid dreams occurred during REM sleep, the phase most strongly associated with vivid dreaming. What's more, he showed that lucid dreamers can not only become aware within a dream, but also remember pre-sleep instructions and carry them out, documenting their conscious presence in the dream world. In subsequent studies conducted over the 1980s, LaBerge and colleagues discovered that lucid dreams tend to happen during periods of particularly high physiological arousal. In REM, lucid dreamers also showed increased activity in brain regions linked to self-awareness, suggesting lucidity involves a reactivation of reflective consciousness within the dream state. Thanks to LaBerge's groundbreaking work, lucid dreaming was transformed practically overnight from a paranormal parlor trick to a serious subject of scientific inquiry. Research into the origins and potential applications of lucid dreams took off, laying the foundations for what has since become a vibrant subfield of dream science. But as revolutionary as these modern findings may seem, the phenomenon of lucid dreaming itself is anything but new. In fact, Tibetan Buddhists have regarded lucid dreams as a powerful tool for spiritual growth and self-knowledge for well over 1,000 years. In the Tibetan tradition, lucid dreaming is seen as a way to confront the ephemeral, malleable nature of experience, a visceral lesson in the dreamlike quality of all perception, waking or sleeping. Advanced practitioners use their lucid dreams to meditate, cultivate compassion and equanimity, and even prepare for the dying process itself. For those steeped in this ancient wisdom, each lucid dream offers a chance to wake up within the nightly illusions of the mind, and in so doing, take another step along the path to enlightenment. How striking that this age-old spiritual practice has now found unexpected validation from the cutting edge of neuroscience. As you lie here drifting off to sleep, perhaps tonight will be the night you too become aware within a dream. If you're lucky enough to gain lucidity, take a moment to marvel at your mind's magnificent ability to weave whole worlds from mere wisps of thought. You might even try your hand at the delicate art of dream control, gently shaping the fantastical environments around you. Conjure up a breathtaking alien vista, soar amongst the clouds, or converse with characters sprung from the depths of your slumbering psyche. But lucid or not, all your dreams offer a window into the nocturnal wanderings of your unconscious mind. Like Van Eden, Laberge, and the lucid sages of old, each of us can learn to peer through that window with wonder, ready to greet whatever strange and beautiful visions the night may bring. And so, the mysteries of dreams continue to unfold in sleep labs and monasteries, in ancient traditions and cutting-edge experiments. From the earliest lucid dreamers to the neuroscientists of today, humanity's fascination with our nightly journeys into the dream world shows no signs of fading. It's a fascination that has carried us from Freud's couch to Tibetan mountaintops, revealing just how much dreaming can teach us about the workings of the mind. And with each passing year, each new study and ancient text brought to light, we grow a little closer to understanding the timeless riddle of dreams. But for now, let the siren song of sleep draw you deeper into slumber's sweet embrace. The secrets of the dreaming mind will still be here, waiting for you, tonight and every night, inviting you to embark on your own journey into the uncharted landscapes of the unconscious. So drift, dream, and discover, secure in the knowledge that with each new dream recalled and pondered, you too are contributing to the great and ongoing human quest to unravel the enigmas of the sleeping brain. The night is young, the pillow soft, and a world of dreams awaits. Who knows what wonders you'll uncover before the dawn's first light? As we've seen, dreams have long been a source of fascination and mystery for people throughout history. From ancient civilizations interpreting dreams as divine messages to modern scientists studying the brain activity of sleeping subjects in the lab, the quest to understand the purpose and meaning of dreams has taken many twists and turns over the centuries. One of the most influential figures in the early days of modern dream research was Sigmund Freud. Born in 1856 in the Austrian Empire, Freud initially trained as a medical doctor before turning his attention to the burgeoning field of psychology. It was here that he began to develop his groundbreaking theories about the unconscious mind and the hidden desires that he believed shaped human behavior. In 1900, Freud published his seminal work, The Interpretation of Dreams, which argued that dreams were not simply random nonsense, but rather a window into the deepest recesses of the psyche. According to Freud, every dream contained both manifest content, the surface-level imagery and events of the dream, and latent content, the underlying wishes and conflicts that the dream symbolically represented. To illustrate his theory, Freud often drew upon his own dreams as case studies. Perhaps the most famous example was the dream he called Irma's Injection, in which he found himself at a party surrounded by colleagues and patients. One of these patients, a young woman named Irma, complained of pains, and Freud examined her, only to discover a ghastly infection staring back at him when she opened her mouth. For Freud, this disturbing dream revealed his own anxieties and guilt over a difficult case where a patient wasn't responding to treatment. By analyzing the specific imagery and associations in the dream, he believed he could trace it back to its unconscious roots and uncover the emotional dynamics at play. Not everyone agreed with Freud's ideas, of course. The Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung, who was initially a follower of Freud but later broke away to establish his own school of thought, had a very different perspective on dreams. Where Freud saw dreams as expressions of individual desires, Jung believed they tapped into something much broader, the collective unconscious, a repository of primal memories and archetypes shared by all humans. But while Freud and Jung laid the foundations for modern dream analysis, our scientific understanding of what actually happens in the brain during dreaming remained quite limited until the second half of the 20th century. That began to change in the early 1950s thanks to the pioneering work of researchers like Eugene Osorinsky, a graduate student at the University of Chicago. Working under the guidance of his PhD advisor Nathaniel Kleitman, Osorinsky had a hunch that there might be clues to the mystery of dreaming in the way people's eyes move during sleep. He set out to test this by rigging up a makeshift laboratory where he could observe his 8-year-old son Armand while he slept. Night after night, Osorinsky sat beside his son's bed, shining a beam of light on his closed eyelids and carefully recording any flickers or movements he saw. What he discovered was remarkable. There seemed to be regular periods during the night when Armand's eyes would suddenly start darting back and forth rapidly beneath his lids, almost as if he was looking at something. Intrigued, Osorinsky connected Armand to an EEG machine to monitor his brain waves during these eye movement episodes. The readout showed that the boy's brain activity was surprisingly similar to what you'd see in someone who was awake, despite him being sound asleep the whole time. It wasn't long before other researchers started replicating Osorinsky's findings in sleep labs across the country. This distinctive stage of sleep, characterized by rapid eye movements and high levels of brain activity, came to be known as REM sleep, and it quickly became clear that it was intimately connected to the experience of dreaming. Subjects woken up during REM sleep almost always reported that they had just been dreaming vividly, while those woken at other times were much less likely to recall any dreams. For the first time, science had a way to pinpoint when dreams were actually occurring and study them more systematically. In the decades that followed, sleep research became a booming field as scientists raced to explore the many questions raised by the discovery of REM. What was the purpose of this strange state, where the sleeping brain becomes so active? How did dreams relate to memory, emotion, and creativity? And what happened when the delicate architecture of the dreaming brain breaks down into nightmares or disorders? As we'll see, the answers they've uncovered so far are just the beginning of a much vaster quest to map the contours of the dreaming mind. From the neuroscience of lucid dreams to the evolutionary origins of REM across the animal kingdom, each new finding seems to reveal new layers of complexity to this nightly voyage into the subconscious. And while dreams may never yield all their secrets, that enduring sense of mystery is part of what makes them so alluring. For a few precious hours each night, we get to wander through an inner world constrained only by the boundaries of our imagination, a place where memories and fantasies collide. And even the most improbable scenarios can feel vividly real. So the next time you find yourself drifting off to sleep, take a moment to marvel at the strange odyssey you're about to embark upon. As your conscious mind retreats and the curtain of dreams rises, you'll be joining a grand tradition of dream explorers that stretches back to the very dawn of human history. Like an ancient Egyptian scribe puzzling over a mysterious vision, or a 1950s volunteer in a university sleep lab waking up from a surreal nightmare, you'll be venturing into uncharted territory, mapping the hidden landscapes of your own psyche. And while you may not always remember the details of your nightly adventures come morning, the imprint they leave on your waking life can be profound. Dreams, after all, have a way of bleeding through into reality. Whether it's the famous tale of the chemist Auguste Kekulé discovering the ring-like structure of benzene, After dreaming of a snake biting its own tail, or just that subtle sense of unease or elation that follows you out of bed after an especially intense dream. That blurring of boundaries between the dreaming and waking worlds is part of what makes the study of dreams both so challenging and so endlessly fascinating. It's a reminder that the human mind is far more fluid and multifaceted than we often give it credit for. That beneath the veneer of our rational, orderly thoughts lies a vast reservoir of emotions, memories, and imaginings that bubbles up to the surface each night as we dream. So while we may never fully unravel the tangled skein of dream logic or decode the obscure symbolism of our sleeping visions, that doesn't make the pursuit any less worthwhile. If anything, it only adds to the sense of wonder and mystery that surrounds this nightly excursion into the uncharted territories of the self. And as you lie there in the darkness, your breathing slowing and your thoughts starting to fragment as sleep tugs you under, try to savor that delicious sense of anticipation, knowing that you're about to set off on a journey that is yours and yours alone. A journey into the secret chambers of your dreaming mind, where anything is possible and the only limit is the boundless expanse of your own imagination. As the veil of waking life falls away and the dreamscape rises up to greet you, take a deep breath and let yourself go. Drift on the currents of your own subconscious and see where they carry you tonight. The mysteries of the dreaming brain may never be fully solved, but the thrill of exploring them anew each night is a reward in itself. Sleep well, and may your dreams be filled with wonder. As we've seen, the story of science grappling with the mysteries of dreams spans thousands of years, from ancient shamans to modern sleep labs. But one of the most pivotal chapters in this saga began in the early 20th century with a now famous psychiatrist, Sigmund Freud. Freud was born in 1856 in the Austrian Empire, a time when the young field of psychology was just beginning to find its footing. The son of a wool merchant, Freud initially set out to study medicine, earning his medical degree from the University of Vienna in 1881. But it was in the emerging science of the mind that he would make his indelible mark. In 1900, Freud published what would become his most famous and influential work, The Interpretation of Dreams. In this groundbreaking book, Freud argued that far from being meaningless nocturnal nonsense, dreams represented the hidden desires and conflicts of the unconscious mind. At the core of Freud's theory was the idea that every dream contains both manifest content, the actual images and events experienced by the dreamer, and latent content, the symbolic and disguised meanings of those elements. For Freud, decoding the latent content of dreams through techniques like free association was the key to understanding the dreamer's unconscious mind. To illustrate his methods, Freud famously analyzed one of his own dreams, which came to be known as the Irma's injection dream. In it, Freud dreamed he met a patient named Irma at a party and examined her, finding a patch of white in her throat. He then turned to a colleague for a second opinion, who commented there was no doubt Irma was suffering from an infection. Freud interpreted this dream as expressing his guilt over mishandling Irma's case in real life by not prescribing her the correct medication. The white patch in Irma's throat, he believed, symbolized the somatic effects of diphtheria, connecting to Freud's fear that he had failed to properly treat her condition. By confronting this guilt and insecurity through analyzing the dream, Freud felt he gained valuable insight into his own mind. Freud's provocative ideas ignited great interest and controversy in the young field of psychology. The Interpretation of Dreams sold sluggishly in its initial print run of 600 copies, but it gradually gained a cult-like following among both experts and laypeople captivated by the notion of dreams as a window into the unconscious. Not everyone bought into Freud's theories wholesale, however. One of his most famous intellectual rivals was another titan of psychology, Carl Jung. While Jung agreed with Freud that dreams could be deeply meaningful, he had a very different take on where those meanings came from. For Jung, dreams didn't just express the repressed desires of the individual, but drew on universal archetypes and symbols from what he called the collective unconscious, a kind of shared ancestral memory accessible through the sleeping mind. Where Freud saw dreams as compensating for the regrettable necessities of waking life, Jung saw them as a vital tool for achieving psychological wholeness and balance. Jung recounted powerful dreams throughout his own life that shaped his theories and self-understanding. In one famous dream from his childhood, he descended into a dark underground cave where he discovered a glowing red pool. At first frightened, young Jung felt an almost mystical sense of initiation upon touching the mysterious waters. Years later, Jung would interpret this dream as his first encounter with what he termed the shadow, the dark and unknown parts of the psyche one must confront to achieve self-knowledge. He believed dreams could serve as guides to help integrate the shadow and other unconscious aspects of the mind into the conscious self. Despite their differences, Freud and Jung's ideas about dreams captured the public imagination and inspired new frontiers of research. No longer dismissed as random noise, dreams became a subject of serious psychological study. But it would take a few decades more for science to begin unraveling the biological basis of the dreaming brain. The next great leap came in the early 1950s in a sleep lab at the University of Chicago. There, graduate student Eugene Oserinsky was working with pioneering sleep researcher Nathaniel Kleitman on experiments observing the physiology of sleeping infants. One night, while monitoring his own infant son, Oserinsky noticed something curious. Periodically throughout the night, the sleeping baby's eyes would dart back and forth rapidly beneath closed eyelids, almost as if the child was looking at something. Intrigued, Oserinsky connected his son to an electroencephalograph EEG machine to record his brain waves. In the EEG readouts, Oserinsky saw bursts of fast, low-voltage brain waves that looked similar to the pattern of waking brain activity. He called these periods of eye movement and near-waking brain activity rapid eye movement, or REM sleep, and he suspected they were linked to dreaming. To test this hunch, Oserinsky and Kleitman recruited volunteers to spend nights in the sleep lab, hooked up to EEG machines and roused at various points to report whether they had been dreaming. The results were remarkable. Subjects woken during REM sleep almost always recalled vivid dreams, while those woken at other points usually did not. This discovery electrified the field of sleep science. Dreaming was not just a subjective experience, it was a distinct neurophysiological state that could be observed and studied objectively. And it apparently occurred spontaneously in every human multiple times a night. Further studies in Kleitman's lab by another graduate student, William Dement, found that REM made up about 20 to 25% of total sleep time in adult humans, or roughly 90 to 120 minutes spread across 4 to 5 REM periods per night. Dement also observed that the percentage was even higher in infants, taking up as much as 50% of their sleep. This finding suggested that REM and dreaming might play a particularly vital role in early brain development. And subsequent research has borne out that hunch. We now know that REM sleep helps consolidate new memories, regulate emotion, and stimulate the growth and pruning of neural connections in the developing brain. But it quickly became clear REM wasn't unique to humans, or even to mammals. In a series of ingenious experiments in the late 1950s, French scientist Michel Jouvet surgically disabled the motor neurons of sleeping cats, paralyzing them so he could safely hook them up to EEG machines without the electrodes slipping off. When Jouvet did this, he was astonished to see the paralyzed cats periodically twitching their eyes and tails and exhibiting the fast, wake-like brain waves of REM sleep. Just like the human volunteers in Kleitman's lab, this suggested the cats were dreaming too. Since Jouvet's pioneering work, REM has been observed in virtually every mammal and bird studied, and in reptiles, fish, and even cephalopods like octopuses. The ubiquity of REM in the animal kingdom underscores just how ancient and evolutionarily conserved the capacity for dreaming is. But while we've begun to understand the biological underpinnings of REM, the purpose and meaning of the dreams it gives rise to is still hotly debated. Are they simply the mind's attempt to make sense of random neural noise? A mechanism for consolidating new memories and discarding unneeded ones? A virtual reality simulator for rehearsing survival skills? The truth may encompass elements of all these theories and more. Perhaps the most famous attempt to synthesize the biology and psychology of dreaming came from one of Oserinsky and Kleitman's successors in the field, J. Allen Hobson. In the 1970s, Hobson proposed what came to be known as the activation synthesis theory of dreams. According to Hobson, the brainstem during REM sleep randomly fires signals up to the cortex, the wrinkly outer layer of the brain responsible for higher cognition. The cortex then does its best to synthesize a coherent story or scene from this haphazard input, drawing on memories and emotions to stitch it all together. So in Hobson's view, the ultimate meaning of a dream might have more to do with the dreamer's own mind than any encrypted message from the unconscious or beyond. Hobson was fond of illustrating this with the following analogy. Dreams are like a TV screen displaying static when the cable is out, while the waking mind is like the screen correctly displaying the TV signal. While activation synthesis has been influential, it's far from the final word on why we dream. Like so much about the sleeping brain, the purpose of dreaming remains a tantalizing open question, inviting further study. Perhaps future breakthroughs in neuroimaging will allow us to truly decode the content of dreams from brain activity in real time. We may one day be able to incubate specific types of dreams to boost memory, mental health, or even motor skills. Or perhaps the allure of dreams will always come from their cryptic, inscrutable nature. The sense that every night our minds unfold untold stories and unseen worlds, all vanished like mist upon awakening. From ancient shamans to Freudian analysts to modern neuroscientists, the riddle of dreams has captivated us for millennia. And so the dreamer stirs, eyelids fluttering as they surface from that deep well of nocturnal visions. A phantom scene, so vibrant and full of import moments ago, begins to dissolve in the light of consciousness. Grasping for the thread of that vanished dream, they wonder yet again, what is my mind telling me in these nightly adventures? As science maps the shadowy seas of sleep and the dreaming brain, we catch glimmers of answers, fragments of meaning like remembered snatches of a dream. But always that sense of mystery remains. The sense of some elusive truth lurking just out of reach, down in the hidden depths of the mind, waiting to be discovered anew each night as we dream. Perhaps in a sense, all of humanity shares an endless dream. The dream of understanding who we are and deciphering the encrypted code of the self. A dream from which we may hope never to fully awake, lest we lose that vital glint of mystery that makes us human. And so we continue probing the secrets of the dreaming mind, both the science and the poetry. As the cat slept, its whiskers twitched and its paws flexed, as if it were stalking some imagined prey. The feline was lost in a world of dreams, an altered state of consciousness that would long intrigue the scientists who studied it. The story of how we came to understand that animals dream begins with a pioneering French researcher named Michel Jouvet. In the 1960s, Jouvet embarked on a series of groundbreaking experiments that would open a tantalizing window into the sleeping minds of our animal cousins. Jouvet's studies centered on cats, those most inscrutable and enigmatic of creatures. He spent countless hours observing cats in various stages of sleep, meticulously recording every whisker twitch and paw flutter. As he watched, Jouvet noticed something remarkable. During certain periods of sleep, the cat's eyes would dart back and forth beneath their closed lids, while their bodies would twitch and move as if acting out some invisible drama. To Jouvet, this was a revelation. He theorized that during these periods of rapid eye movement, or REM sleep, the cats were experiencing something akin to human dreams. Just like us, it seemed, they were inhabiting vivid worlds conjured by their slumbering brains. But Jouvet wasn't content to simply observe these feline dreams from afar. He wanted to peer deeper into the cats' minds, to glimpse what strange scenes might be unfolding behind those twitching whiskers. And so, in a feat of scientific daring-do, Jouvet devised a way to do just that. With great care and precision, he surgically removed part of the cat's brainstems, the regions that normally keep the body still and paralyzed during REM sleep. Once those inhibitions were lifted, the cats began to physically act out their dreams, rising to their feet and stalking, pouncing, and batting at unseen prey. It was a surreal sight, these slumbering felines so convinced of the reality of their imagined worlds that their bodies had no choice but to play along. For Jouvet, it was a triumph, the first time anyone had found a way to make the invisible dreamscapes of the animal mind visible to human eyes. News of Jouvet's dreaming cats soon spread throughout the scientific world, sparking a wave of similar research into the nighttime adventures of creatures great and small. Before long, evidence of REM sleep and dreamlike brain activity was being found in species ranging from birds to rats to opossums. But it wasn't just the fact that animals seemed to dream that fascinated researchers. It was the tantalizing hints those dreams offered about the very nature and purpose of dreaming itself. After all, if cats and opossums were partaking in this nightly ritual of vivid hallucination, then perhaps there was more to dreaming than the Freudian wish fulfillment or Jungian archetypes that had long dominated dream theory. As it turned out, dreaming did seem to be closely linked to the brain's development and growth. Studies found that the amount of REM sleep an animal experienced was correlated with the immaturity of its brain at birth. Species like humans and cats, whose brains are relatively undeveloped when they're born, spend much more time in REM than animals like horses or giraffes, who hit the ground running with more fully formed brains. This suggested that one of the key functions of REM sleep and dreaming might be to help the brain build and strengthen new neural pathways, a process that's crucial in infancy and young childhood, but continues to some degree throughout life. In a sense, dreaming seemed to be the brain's way of taking itself out for a spin, testing its abilities in the safe environment of the mind so that it would be ready for the challenges of the waking world. But even as research revealed more and more about the dreaming minds of animals, new questions and mysteries continued to surface. For example, scientists began to discover some intriguing variations in the dreaming patterns of different species. Birds, it turned out, experienced something akin to REM sleep, but only with one half of their brain at a time. Dolphins, meanwhile, seemed hardly to dream at all, remaining alert and aware even as they slept. And creatures like lizards and turtles abandoned REM altogether during certain times of year, a change that might be linked to the seasonal rhythms of their brains. Clearly, there was no one-size-fits-all explanation for the whys and wherefores of animal dreaming. Each species, it seemed, had evolved its own unique relationship to the dream world, one that was intimately connected to its particular brain structure and way of life. And so the quest to unravel the secrets of animal dreams pressed on, as researchers devised ever more ingenious ways of peering into the slumbering minds of their subjects. They studied the dreamlike vocalizations of sleeping rats, recorded the brain activity of napping monkeys, and even found evidence of REM in the alien-like central nervous systems of octopuses. Through it all, one thing became abundantly clear. Dreaming was not some frivolous bit of mental entertainment, but a vital and deeply rooted part of the life of the mind across the animal kingdom. Those cats acting out midnight hunts, those birds riding imaginary thermals with half-sleeping brains, they weren't just indulging in some idle fantasy, but participating in an ancient and essential ritual of consciousness. And so, as we drift off to sleep each night, we can take comfort in the knowledge that we are not alone in our dreaming. From the mighty lion to the humble fruit fly, the entire animal world joins us in that nightly journey into the phantasmagoric realms of the slumbering brain. Sweet dreams, fellow creatures. But the mystery of why we dream still endures, with many competing theories and unanswered questions waiting to be explored. Some researchers argue that dreams serve as a kind of emotional first aid kit, helping us process and come to terms with the stresses and anxieties of our waking lives. By confronting our fears and desires in the safe space of the dream world, the theory goes, we emerge better equipped to handle the challenges of the real one. Others see dreaming as a kind of nightly rehearsal, a chance for the brain to practice and hone the skills we need to navigate the complex social and physical environments we inhabit. Just as an athlete might mentally envision the perfect jump, or a musician might hear a tricky passage of music in their mind's ear, the dreaming brain might be working through the tricky bits of being human, from navigating a crowded party to remembering where we put our keys. Still others argue that dreams are nothing more than an epiphenomenon, a kind of mental exhaust produced by the whirring machinery of the sleeping brain. Just as a car engine's humming might lull a passenger to sleep during a long drive, these researchers argue the electrical buzz and chatter of the brain during REM might simply spill over into our awareness, conjuring the vivid but ultimately meaningless narratives of the dream. The debate rages on, with new evidence and theories emerging all the time. But one intriguing avenue for exploration lies not in the study of the dreams themselves, but in the rare cases where dreams are entirely absent. Enter the dreamless, those scarce individuals who claim to have never experienced a dream in their lives. Though exceptionally rare, these cases offer a unique window into the workings of the dreaming mind by showing us what happens when it fails to ignite. Studies of dreamless individuals have revealed some tantalizing clues about the potential purpose of dreaming. Some research has suggested, for example, that those who don't dream may have more difficulty with certain types of memory consolidation and emotional processing than their dreaming counterparts. If true, this would lend support to the idea that dreams play a crucial role in helping the brain sort through and make sense of the day's experiences, filing away important memories and discarding the mental detritus of the waking hours. Without dreams to perform this vital tidying up function, the dreamless mind might struggle to keep itself organized and emotionally balanced. But as with so much in the world of dream research, the true implications of dreamlessness remain murky and uncertain. Some dream experts argue that the condition is a kind of mirage, a trick of memory rather than a true absence of dreaming. After all, even the most vivid of dreamers will forget the vast majority of their nighttime adventures upon waking. Who's to say that the dreamless aren't simply forgetting even more thoroughly? Others point out that the very idea of a life without dreams is so alien to most of us that it's hard to even imagine what it might be like. Dreams, after all, are such a fundamental part of the human experience that a world without them seems almost inconceivable. Would a dreamless existence be one of pure, untroubled sleep? Or would it be a kind of half-life, a twilight realm of vague sensations and inchoate feelings? As we continue to map the contours of the dreaming mind, these are the sorts of questions that tantalize and inspire the researchers working at the frontiers of dream science. And while we may never fully unravel the mystery of why we dream, that very inscrutability is part of what makes dreams such an endlessly fascinating subject of inquiry. For now, we can only marvel at the nightly miracle of the dreaming brain, at the way it conjures whole worlds out of nothing but neural sparks and synaptic static. And as we drift off to sleep each night, we can take comfort in the knowledge that we are part of a grand tradition of dreamers, stretching back to the very dawn of human consciousness. So go ahead and let yourself sink into the warm embrace of sleep. Let your mind wander where it will, through landscapes of memory and desire, fear and fantasy. And know that as you dream, you are participating in one of the most ancient and mysterious rituals of the human experience, one that connects us not only to our own depths, but to the dreaming minds of every human being who has ever lived. Sweet dreams, fellow traveler. May your journey through the dreamscapes of the night be a rich and rewarding one. And so we come to the end of our exploration of the strange and wonderful world of dreams. From the earliest dream interpreters of ancient Mesopotamia to the cutting-edge researchers of today's sleep labs, we've traced the long and winding path of our attempts to understand this most enigmatic of human experiences. We've seen how dreams have been variously regarded as messages from the gods, windows into the unconscious mind, and epiphenomena of the churning neural networks of the brain. We've marveled at the discoveries of pioneers like Sigmund Freud and Michel Jouvet, and pondered the implications of new frontiers in dream research, from lucid dreaming to the tantalizing possibility of dreamless sleep. Through it all, one thing has remained constant: the utter, irreducible mystery of the dreaming mind. For all our scientific advances and theoretical breakthroughs, dreams remain a fundamentally inexplicable phenomenon, a nightly journey into a world that defies our waking understanding. And yet, it is precisely this mystery that makes dreams such an endlessly compelling subject of inquiry. In a world that can sometimes feel all too explicable, all too bounded by the hard edges of fact and reason, dreams offer us a glimpse of something larger, something that hints at the vast and uncharted territories of the human mind. So let us embrace that mystery, even as we work to unravel it. Let us continue to explore the dreamscapes of the night with open minds and wonder-filled hearts, knowing that each journey into that strange and shadowy realm brings us one step closer to understanding the deepest recesses of ourselves. And as we drift off to sleep each night, let us do so with a sense of gratitude for the gift of dreaming, for the chance to participate in this most intimate and universal of human experiences. For in the end, it is our dreams that make us who we are, that connect us to the timeless cycle of the human psyche. So close your eyes, dear listener, and let yourself be carried away on the currents of your own dreaming mind. Let the cares and concerns of the waking world fall away, and surrender yourself to the infinite possibilities of the dream. And know that as you dream, you are not alone, but part of a vast and ancient community of dreamers, stretching back to the very dawn of human consciousness and forward into the uncertain future of the human mind. Sweet dreams, dear friend. May they be filled with wonder, with mystery, and with the boundless beauty of the dreaming world. Good night. As we delve deeper into the fascinating world of dreams, let us turn our attention to the groundbreaking work of two early pioneers in the field, Sigmund Freud and Carl Jung. These towering figures of psychology would lay the foundation for much of our modern understanding of dreams, even as their theories diverged in significant ways. Sigmund Freud, the father of psychoanalysis, forever changed how we think about dreams with the 1900 publication of his seminal work, The Interpretation of Dreams. In this revolutionary book, Freud boldly argued that far from being random nocturnal imaginings, dreams represent the unconscious desires and conflicts of the dreamer. Freud proposed that every dream has two levels of content: the manifest content, which is the literal plot and imagery experienced by the dreamer, and the latent content, which is the symbolic and often hidden meaning behind the dream. For Freud, deciphering this latent content was the key to unlocking the secrets of the unconscious mind. To illustrate his theory, Freud famously analyzed one of his own dreams that would come to be known as the Irma's injection dream. In this dream, Freud encounters a patient named Irma who is suffering from an infected injection site on her body. As the dream unfolds, various characters appear offering competing explanations and treatments for Irma's condition. Through his analysis, Freud interpreted the Irma dream as an expression of his own unconscious guilt and anxiety over a mishandled case in his early medical career. The different characters in the dream, he argued, represented different aspects of Freud's own psyche grappling with this unresolved conflict. This idea that dreams could serve as a royal road to the unconscious would become a cornerstone of Freudian theory. By analyzing the manifest content of dreams and tracing it back to the latent wishes and fears of the dreamer, Freud believed he had found a powerful tool for mapping the hidden contours of the human mind. But Freud's view of dreams would not go unchallenged. His one-time protege turned rival, Carl Jung, would develop a markedly different theory of what dreams represent and where they come from. For Jung, dreams were not merely the expression of individual unconscious desires, but a gateway into what he called the collective unconscious. Jung proposed that in addition to a personal unconscious shaped by an individual's experiences, there was a deeper layer of the psyche that was universal to all humans. This collective unconscious, Jung argued, contained archetypes, symbolic images and motifs that appear again and again across cultures and throughout history. In Jung's view, dreams were a way for the collective unconscious to communicate with the individual, often through powerful archetypal symbols and narratives. A dream of being chased by a monster, for example, might not just represent a personal fear, but tap into a primal human archetype of the shadow or the unknown. This idea of a collective reservoir of symbolic meaning would lead Jung to amass an extensive collection of dream reports from different cultures and eras, meticulously cataloging the repeating motifs and images he found. Jung believed that by studying these cross-cultural patterns, he could map the contours of the collective unconscious itself. Though Freud and Jung's theories differed in crucial ways, they shared a conviction that dreams were not merely random neurological phenomena, but held deep psychological significance. Their work would inspire generations of researchers and therapists to venture into the uncharted realms of the dreaming mind in search of insight and healing. As we leave these two titans of dream theory, we move forward a few decades to the 1950s and the next great leap in our understanding of why we dream. For it was then that a young graduate student named Eugene Osorinsky, working late into the night in a sleep lab at the University of Chicago, would make a startling discovery that opened up a whole new frontier of dream science. Osorinsky, with the help of his 8-year-old son Armand, was conducting experiments monitoring the eye movements of sleeping subjects using a novel device called an electroencephalograph, or EEG. As he watched the pens of the EEG machine trace the jagged lines of brain activity, Osorinsky noticed a curious pattern. At regular intervals throughout the night, his subjects' eyes would begin darting back and forth beneath their closed lids, almost as if they were watching some invisible tennis match. At the same time, their brain waves would shift into a fast, active pattern that resembled the waking state, even as their bodies remained deeply asleep. Intrigued, Osorinsky awakened his subjects during these periods of rapid eye movement and asked them what was happening. To his amazement, they consistently reported that they had been dreaming, often vividly and emotionally. Osorinsky had stumbled upon a whole new stage of sleep, one in which the brain paradoxically becomes highly active while the body remains paralyzed. He named this stage rapid eye movement, or REM sleep, and with that discovery, the modern era of dream research had begun. Subsequent studies would show that humans spend about 2 hours each night in REM sleep, or about 20 to 25% of their total sleep time. It is during these REM periods that our most vivid and memorable dreams occur. But Osorinsky's discovery raised as many questions as it answered. Why did the brain become so active during REM sleep? What was the purpose of these nightly flights of fancy into the dream world? As more researchers began to probe the mysteries of REM, they would uncover tantalizing clues about the role of dreams in memory, learning, and emotional processing. One of the first to explore these questions was the French neuroscientist Michel Jouvet. In a series of pioneering studies in the 1960s, Jouvet demonstrated that REM sleep was not unique to humans, but occurred in almost all mammals and even in birds. This suggested that REM and dreaming were not just quirks of the human mind, but served some deep evolutionary function. Jouvet also discovered that depriving animals of REM sleep led to severe disruptions in their brain development and behavior. Kittens raised in an environment where they were constantly awakened during REM showed permanent deficits in their ability to navigate complex environments and interact socially. This hinted that REM sleep, and perhaps dreaming itself, played a crucial role in early brain plasticity and learning. Around the same time, researchers began to uncover intriguing links between REM sleep and memory consolidation. A number of studies found that subjects who were allowed to dream after learning a new task showed better retention and performance than those who were deprived of REM. It seemed that something about the dreaming process was helping to cement new knowledge and skills into long-term storage. This connection between dreams and memory would later be bolstered by brain imaging studies, showing that many of the same neural networks involved in learning and spatial navigation are highly active during REM sleep. The famous discovery of so-called place cells in the hippocampus of rats and humans, neurons that fire in specific patterns to encode spatial locations, added weight to the idea that one of the functions of dreaming may be to rehearse and strengthen our cognitive maps of the world. But it wasn't just factual and procedural memory that seemed to benefit from dreaming. A growing body of research pointed to REM sleep as crucial for processing emotional experiences and regulating mood. Studies found that people who experienced a higher frequency of nightmares and disturbed dreaming were more likely to suffer from anxiety, depression, and even suicidal ideation. Conversely, subjects who were allowed to dream after exposure to emotionally stressful stimuli showed lower physiological arousal and reported less distress than those who were dream-deprived. Some researchers theorized that the vivid, often bizarre imagery of dreams provided a safe space to confront and process difficult emotions, diffusing their impact on our waking lives. This link between dreams and emotional processing also offered a potential explanation for one of the most fascinating and enduring phenomena in the history of dream research: the creative insights and artistic breakthroughs that have often been attributed to dreams. Throughout history, there have been countless anecdotes of scientists, inventors, and artists receiving inspiration or solving intractable problems through their dreams. The chemist Auguste Kekule famously claimed that he discovered the ring-like structure of the benzene molecule after dreaming of a snake biting its own tail. Paul McCartney has said that the melody for the Beatles' hit "Yesterday" came to him in a dream. While such stories are impossible to verify, modern research has lent some credence to the idea that the unique neurochemical environment of REM sleep, with its high levels of acetylcholine and low levels of norepinephrine and serotonin, may be particularly conducive to flexible, associative thinking. The bizarre, hyper-connected narratives of dreams could serve as a kind of nightly brainstorming session, allowing the brain to make novel connections and explore possibilities that are off-limits to our more linear waking minds. But even as the evidence for the cognitive and emotional functions of dreaming mounted, the fundamental mystery remained. Why do we dream at all? What is the evolutionary purpose of this nightly descent into vivid hallucination? As we will see, that question would prove surprisingly difficult to answer. Some researchers argued that dreaming is simply an epiphenomenon of REM sleep, a kind of cognitive screensaver that keeps the brain occupied while the body carries out its nightly repair and maintenance functions. After all, if the purpose of REM is to consolidate memories and process emotions, why not do it through quiet, unconscious neural activity? Why generate the vivid, immersive, and often bizarre experiential content of dreams? Others countered that the sheer universality and intensity of dreaming suggests it must serve some vital purpose of its own. They pointed to conditions like REM sleep behavior disorder, in which the normal paralysis of REM is disrupted and patients physically act out their dreams, as evidence that the brain invests considerable resources in creating a full-fledged hallucinatory reality every night. This debate over the function of dreaming would come to a head in the 1970s with the rise of what is known as the activation synthesis model, developed by Harvard psychiatrists Alan Hobson and Robert McCarley. According to this theory, dreams are essentially the cortex's attempt to make sense of random signals generated by the brainstem during REM sleep. Hobson and McCarley argued that the pontine brainstem, which regulates sleep and arousal, fires off bursts of activity during REM that the higher brain interprets as sensory and motor experiences. The cortex then works to synthesize these random signals into a coherent narrative, much like the confabulations of patients with certain types of brain damage. In this view, the content of dreams is not psychologically meaningful in itself, but rather a kind of cognitive confabulation in response to an essentially arbitrary input. Hobson was fond of saying that Dreaming is to REM sleep as a sneeze is to an irritation in the nose, a reflexive byproduct rather than a purposeful process. But many researchers were unsatisfied with this rather deflationary account of dreaming. They argued that the activation synthesis model failed to explain the consistent themes and emotional resonances of dreams, or why certain types of experiences, like flying or being chased, are so common across dreamers. Some, like the psychologist Rosalind Cartwright, proposed that dreams are a form of emotional regulation, a way for the brain to flush out negative experiences and consolidate positive ones. Others, like the philosopher Owen Flanagan, suggested that dreams might serve an important social simulation function, allowing us to rehearse and explore complex interpersonal scenarios. Still others pointed to the prevalence of dream interpretation practices across cultures as evidence that the content of dreams is not merely random, but reflects meaningful patterns and symbols that can be deciphered with the right tools. The ancient Egyptians, for example, compiled extensive dream dictionaries that assigned specific meanings to various dream images and themes. In many indigenous societies, dreams are seen as a vital source of spiritual guidance and problem solving. The Native American Ojibwe people believe that dreams are messages from the Bawajige, or dream spirits, who offer wisdom and direction to the dreamer. Lucid dreaming practices, in which the dreamer becomes aware that they are dreaming and can control the content of the dream, have been used for centuries in Tibetan Buddhism as a means of spiritual awakening. But while these cultural and psychological perspectives offered intriguing hints about the deeper significance of dreaming, hard scientific evidence remained elusive. How could researchers prove that dreams served a specific cognitive or emotional function, rather than being a mere epiphenomenon of REM sleep? One approach was to study individuals who claimed not to dream at all. In the 1970s, a young graduate student named David Foulkes conducted a series of experiments on non-dreamers, people who reported little or no dream recall. Foulkes found that when awakened during REM sleep, these individuals did, in fact, report dreaming, but their dreams tended to be shorter, less vivid, and more conceptual than those of regular dream recallers. This suggested that the capacity to generate dream content is universal, but that some people may simply not remember their dreams or find them significant enough to encode into long-term memory. It also hinted at the possibility that dream recall itself might serve an important function, perhaps in terms of emotional processing or self-reflection. More recently, neuroimaging studies have begun to shed light on the specific brain regions and networks involved in dreaming. A landmark 2017 study by French neuroscientists managed to decode the contents of dreams from brain activity alone, using machine learning algorithms trained on fMRI data from sleeping subjects. The researchers found that certain brain regions, such as the temporoparietal junction and the medial prefrontal cortex, were consistently active during dreams with specific themes or contents, such as faces or spatial movement. This suggested that dreaming is not a diffuse, whole-brain process, but involves specific neural circuits that are linked to waking cognitive functions. Other studies have found that patients with lesions in the parietal lobe often report a cessation or significant reduction in dreaming, even as their REM sleep remains intact. This region of the brain is involved in integrating sensory information and constructing a coherent sense of bodily awareness, hinting at a possible role for dreams in maintaining our physical sense of self. But perhaps the most intriguing recent development in dream science has been the rise of dream engineering. The idea that we can manipulate or influence the content of dreams for therapeutic or enhancement purposes. A number of studies have shown that it is possible to incubate specific dream themes or emotions by having subjects focus on certain topics before sleep, or even by playing targeted audio cues during REM. Some researchers have suggested that this kind of dream manipulation could be used to treat nightmares and PTSD, or to boost creativity and problem-solving skills. A 2019 study found that subjects who were trained to lucid dream were able to reduce the frequency and intensity of their nightmares and reported improved mental well-being as a result. Of course, the prospect of dream engineering also raises profound ethical questions. If we can manipulate the content of dreams, should we? What are the implications for privacy, autonomy, and the sanctity of our inner lives? As the science of dreaming advances, these questions will only become more urgent and complex. As we lie down to sleep each night, we embark on a journey into a realm that is at once intimately familiar and profoundly mysterious. For all the progress that has been made in understanding the neurobiology and psychology of dreams, they remain one of the great frontiers of human experience, a nightly voyage into the uncharted territories of the self. Perhaps in the end, the question of why we dream is inextricable from the larger question of what it means to be a conscious, self-aware being in an often perplexing world. Dreams remind us that the boundaries of our experience are not fixed by the limitations of our waking senses, but are constantly being stretched and remade by the creative power of the mind. They hint at dimensions of our inner lives that lie beyond the reach of our everyday awareness and beckon us to explore the vast, unmapped spaces within ourselves. In dreaming, we are not just passive witnesses to a neurochemical light show, but active participants in a nightly drama of the soul. And so, as we drift off into sleep once more, let us embrace the mystery and wonder of the dreaming mind. Let us be open to the wisdom and insight that may lie waiting in the depths of our nocturnal visions. And let us never lose sight of the fact that, for all our scientific progress, the most profound truths of our existence may always lie just beyond the veil of our waking understanding, in the elusive, enchanted realm of dreams. As we drift deeper into the night, let us leave behind the waking world and descend into the realm of dreams. For as long as humans have walked the earth, we have been fascinated by the strange and wonderful visions that come to us in the depths of sleep. From ancient shamans seeking wisdom in their dreams to modern scientists probing the secrets of the sleeping brain, the study of dreams has long been a source of mystery and wonder. In centuries past, many cultures saw dreams as messages from the gods or glimpses into the future. The ancient Egyptians believed that dreams held the key to divining the will of the gods, and they would often seek out dream interpreters to help them understand the hidden meanings behind their nocturnal visions. In ancient China, the Taoist text known as the Zhuangzi contains a famous parable about a man who dreamed he was a butterfly, only to awaken and wonder if he was in fact a butterfly, dreaming he was a man. But amidst all this ancient fascination with dreams, there were a few intrepid thinkers who began to suspect that perhaps dreams came not from the realm of the divine, but from within the depths of the human mind itself. The Greek philosopher Aristotle was one of the first to propose this idea, suggesting in his treatise On Dreams that dreams might arise from the residual movements of our sensory impressions after we fall asleep. It would be many centuries before Aristotle's ideas were fully vindicated, but in the meantime, countless people across the world continued to ponder the meaning of their dreams. From the dream interpretation manuals of the ancient Egyptians to the symbolism-rich visions recorded in the Tibetan Buddhist text known as the Bardo Thodol, dreams have long been seen as a window into the deeper workings of the human psyche. But it was not until the dawn of the 20th century that the study of dreams would truly begin to take on a scientific form. In 1900, an Austrian neurologist by the name of Sigmund Freud published a groundbreaking work entitled The Interpretation of Dreams. In this seminal text, Freud argued that dreams were not simply random firings of the sleeping brain, but rather expressions of our deepest unconscious desires and conflicts. According to Freud, every dream contained both a manifest content, the surface-level imagery and events of the dream, and a latent content, the hidden psychological meaning behind those images. By analyzing his patients' dreams and tracing them back to their unconscious sources, Freud believed he could help uncover the root causes of their neuroses and set them on the path to healing. One of the most famous examples of Freud's dream analysis comes from his own life. In a dream he entitled Irma's Injection, Freud found himself at a party where he encountered a patient of his named Irma who was suffering from severe pain. In the dream, Freud examined Irma's throat and found a large white patch, which he interpreted as a sign of diphtheria. He then watched as another doctor injected Irma with a mysterious drug, after which she began to feel better. For Freud, this dream was a complex web of symbols and associations, all pointing back to his own unconscious mind. The white patch in Irma's throat, he believed, was a representation of his own fears about the limits of his medical knowledge. The mysterious injection, meanwhile, symbolized his desire to find a magic bullet cure for his patient's ailments. While Freud's ideas about dream interpretation would go on to have an enormous influence on the field of psychology, they were not without their critics. One of the most prominent was Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung, who had once been a close collaborator of Freud's before breaking with him over theoretical differences. Unlike Freud, who saw dreams as expressions of individual unconscious desires, Jung believed that dreams tapped into a deeper collective unconscious shared by all humanity. He argued that the symbols and archetypes that appeared in dreams were not simply personal associations, but rather universal patterns that could be found across all cultures and all times. For Jung, studying dreams was not just about uncovering personal neuroses, but about gaining insight into the deeper spiritual realities that underlie our shared human experience. He believed that by learning to interpret the language of dreams, we could come to a greater understanding of ourselves and our place in the world. But even as Freud and Jung were debating the meaning of dreams, other scientists were beginning to take a more empirical approach to the study of the sleeping brain. In the 1950s, a young researcher at the University of Chicago named Eugene Osorinsky made a remarkable discovery. By hooking up sleeping subjects to an electroencephalograph (EEG) machine, which measured the electrical activity of their brains, Osorinsky noticed something peculiar. At certain points during the night, his subjects' eyes would begin to dart back and forth rapidly beneath their closed lids, almost as if they were watching an invisible tennis match. Intrigued by this finding, Osorinsky and his colleagues began to study these periods of rapid eye movement more closely. They soon discovered that they were associated with a distinct stage of sleep, one characterized by high levels of brain activity and vivid, emotionally intense dreams. This stage of sleep, which came to be known as REM, rapid eye movement, sleep quickly became a focal point for dream researchers around the world. Scientists hooked up volunteers to EEG machines and spent long nights observing their brain activity, trying to unlock the secrets of the dreaming mind. One of the most important figures in this early wave of dream research was French neuroscientist Michel Jouvet. In a series of groundbreaking studies in the 1960s, Jouvet showed that REM sleep was not unique to humans, but could be found across a wide range of animal species, from cats to rats to opossums. Jouvet's work suggested that REM sleep and dreaming were not simply quirks of the human mind, but rather served some deeper evolutionary purpose. He theorized that REM sleep played a crucial role in brain development, helping to strengthen and refine the neural connections that would serve animals throughout their lives. But even as scientists were beginning to unravel the biological underpinnings of REM sleep and dreaming, the question of what purpose dreams might serve remained a subject of heated debate. Some researchers argued that dreams were simply a byproduct of the brain's nocturnal housekeeping, a kind of mental screensaver that kept the mind occupied while the body rested. Others, however, believed that dreams played a more active role in our mental lives. One popular theory held that dreams were a way for the brain to process and consolidate the memories and experiences of the waking day, helping to transfer important information from short-term to long-term storage. This idea gained support from a number of studies showing that REM sleep and dreaming were often associated with improved memory and learning. In one famous experiment, a group of volunteers were asked to navigate a complex virtual maze before going to sleep. Those who reported vivid dreams of the maze during the night showed greater improvement in their maze navigating skills the next day, suggesting that their dreams had helped to solidify their spatial memories. Other researchers have proposed that dreams may serve an important emotional function, helping us to process and come to terms with the stresses and challenges of our waking lives. This idea has been bolstered by studies showing that people who suffer from chronic nightmares often have higher levels of anxiety and depression, and that treating these nightmares can lead to significant improvements in mental health. Throughout history, there have been countless anecdotes of people who claim to have had dreams that led to important insights or creative breakthroughs. One of the most famous examples comes from the 19th century German chemist August Kekulé, who is said to have discovered the ring-like structure of the benzene molecule after dreaming of a snake biting its own tail. While such stories are often apocryphal, there is some evidence to suggest that dreams can indeed be a source of creative inspiration. In one study, a group of volunteers were asked to solve a series of complex mathematical problems before going to sleep. Those who reported dreaming about the problems during the night were more likely to have a flash of insight and solve the problems the next day, suggesting that their dreaming minds had been working on the problems in ways their waking minds could not. As our scientific understanding of dreams has advanced, so too has our ability to peer directly into the dreaming brain. Using advanced neuroimaging techniques like functional magnetic resonance imaging, fMRI, researchers have begun to map out the patterns of brain activity that occur during different stages of sleep and dreaming. These studies have shown that REM sleep is associated with heightened activity in a number of brain regions, including the visual cortex, the limbic system, and the hippocampus. This heightened activity may help to explain the vivid, emotionally charged nature of many dreams, as well as their often bizarre and disjointed structure. At the same time, other brain regions, such as the prefrontal cortex, which is involved in logical reasoning and decision-making, tend to be less active during REM sleep. This may be why dreams often feel so irrational and nonsensical, with sudden shifts in scene and characters that defy the laws of waking reality. Some scientists have even begun to explore the possibility of using neuroimaging to decode the contents of people's dreams from their brain activity alone. While this research is still in its early stages, it raises the tantalizing prospect of one day being able to record and play back our dreams like a movie. But even as our scientific understanding of dreams continues to deepen, there is still much about the dreaming brain that remains a mystery. One particularly puzzling phenomenon is the existence of lucid dreams, in which the dreamer becomes aware that they are dreaming and can sometimes even take control of the dream narrative. The term lucid dreaming was first coined by the Dutch psychiatrist Frederik van Eden in 1913, but the phenomenon has been recognized by cultures around the world for centuries. Tibetan Buddhists, for example, have long regarded lucid dreaming as a powerful tool for spiritual growth and self-discovery, and have developed a range of techniques for inducing and cultivating lucid dreams. In the 1970s and 80s, the study of lucid dreaming gained new momentum thanks to the work of researchers like Stephen LaBerge, who conducted a series of groundbreaking experiments proving that lucid dreamers could communicate with the waking world through prearranged eye movements. LaBerge and his colleagues showed that lucid dreamers could learn to recognize certain dream signs that would alert them to the fact that they were dreaming, such as the ability to fly or breathe underwater. They also found that lucid dreamers could use their dreams to rehearse and practice real-world skills, such as playing a musical instrument or public speaking. But while lucid dreaming has fascinated researchers and dreamers alike for decades, the neuroscience behind this phenomenon remains poorly understood. Some studies have suggested that lucid dreams may be associated with increased activity in the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain involved in self-awareness and metacognition. Others have pointed to the role of the neurotransmitter acetylcholine, which is known to be involved in wakefulness and attention. As our journey into the world of dreams continues, it is worth pausing to consider the many ways in which the study of dreams intersects with the broader field of animal cognition. For just as humans have long been fascinated by the content of their dreams, So too have scientists sought to understand the role that dreams and sleep play in the lives of our animal cousins. From the twitching paws of sleeping cats to the complex vocalizations of dreaming birds, the study of animal dreams has revealed a rich tapestry of cognitive processes that extend far beyond the human mind. In the 1960s, the French neuroscientist Michel Jouvet conducted a series of famous studies on cats, in which he observed that the animals appeared to act out their dreams, complete with rapid eye movements and muscle twitches. More recent research has shown that a wide range of species, from octopuses to elephants, experience REM sleep and exhibit signs of dreaming. In some cases, these dreams appear to play a crucial role in brain development and learning, just as they do in human infants. But even as we marvel at the dreaming minds of animals, we must also confront the deeper mystery that lies at the heart of our own dreaming lives. For despite all the advances of modern neuroscience, the fundamental question of why we dream remains stubbornly unresolved. Some researchers have proposed that dreams serve a crucial function in emotional processing, helping us to work through the stresses and traumas of our waking lives in a safe and controlled environment. Others have suggested that dreams may play a role in the consolidation of memories, allowing us to rehearse and refine the skills and knowledge we acquire during the day. Still others have argued that dreams may serve no essential purpose at all, but are simply a byproduct of the complex neurological processes that occur during sleep. According to this view, the bizarre and often nonsensical content of our dreams is simply the result of our brains trying to make sense of the random neural firings that occur during REM sleep. To help resolve these debates, some scientists have turned to the study of individuals who claim to never dream at all. While rare, these so-called non-dreamers offer a unique window into the role that dreams may play in our mental lives. Some studies have suggested that non-dreamers may be more prone to certain cognitive deficits, such as difficulties with spatial memory or creative problem-solving. Others, however, have found no significant differences between non-dreamers and regular dreamers, calling into question the idea that dreams serve any essential function. As we continue to probe the mysteries of the dreaming brain, it is clear that there is still much we have yet to learn. But one thing seems certain. For as long as there have been humans walking the earth, there have been dreamers among us, seeking to make sense of the strange and wondrous visions that come to us in the depths of the night. And so, as we drift off to sleep once more, let us embrace the mystery and the magic of our dreaming lives. For in the end, perhaps the greatest gift that dreams have to offer us is not some grand scientific insight or creative breakthrough, but rather a chance to explore the vast and uncharted landscape of our own inner worlds. Who knows what wonders and revelations await us there in the secret chambers of the dreaming mind? As the writer Edgar Allan Poe once mused, all that we see or seem is but a dream within a dream. And so, let us dream on, wanderers in the night, and see what strange and marvelous visions the future may yet hold. For in the end, the study of dreams is nothing less than the study of the human soul itself, in all its infinite mystery and complexity. As our minds begin to quiet and our eyes grow heavy, let us surrender ourselves once more to the gentle embrace of sleep. And as we do, let us remember that the dreams that await us are not just the random firings of a weary brain, but a gateway to a deeper understanding of ourselves and the world around us. For in the end, the greatest gift that science can offer us is not some final, definitive answer to the mystery of dreams, but rather the tools and the insight to keep exploring, to keep questioning, to keep dreaming. And so, as we embark on this nightly journey into the unknown, let us do so with open minds and curious hearts, ready to embrace whatever wonders and challenges the dreaming world may hold. As the 20th century philosopher and psychologist William James once wrote, "Our normal waking consciousness, rational consciousness as we call it, is but one special type of consciousness, whilst all about it, parted from it by the filmiest of screens, there lie potential forms of consciousness entirely different. So let us part the filmy screens of our waking minds and step boldly into the vast and mysterious realm of dreams. For it is there, in the depths of the unconscious, that we may find the keys to unlocking the greatest mysteries of the human experience. As the veil of sleep begins to lift and our minds start to stir, the vivid tapestry of our dreams slowly fades away, like mist under the morning sun. But even as the specific details of our nocturnal visions may elude our grasp, something of their essence lingers on. A half-remembered fragment, a fleeting emotion, a tantalizing glimpse of some deeper truth. And so we awaken, blinking in the light of a new day, our minds still swirling with the after-images of the dreams that have danced through our heads in the long hours of the night. Were they messages from some higher power, as the ancients believed? Expressions of our deepest desires and fears, as Freud and his followers maintained? Or simply the byproduct of our brain's ceaseless activity, random sparks thrown off by the neural engines that keep our minds humming through the dark? Perhaps in the end, the answer matters less than the asking of the question itself. For in grappling with the mystery of our dreams, we are forced to confront the even deeper mystery of the human mind. That endlessly complex web of neurons and synapses that somehow gives rise to the rich inner world of our thoughts, feelings, and experiences. And so, as we go forth into the waking world once more, let us carry with us a renewed sense of wonder at the marvels that lie within us. For in the end, the study of dreams is not just a window into the workings of the brain, but a mirror held up to the human soul itself, a reflection of all that we are and all that we may yet become. The road ahead is long, and there are sure to be many twists and turns along the way. But armed with the tools of science and the fire of curiosity, we press on, exploring, questioning, dreaming. For it is only by embracing the unknown that we can hope to truly know ourselves and to unravel the deepest secrets of the dreaming mind. And so, as the last wisps of sleep fall away and the waking world beckons us back to its familiar rhythms, let us. As our dreamer drifts off into a vivid dreamscape, their mind becomes a theater of the surreal, populated by characters and symbols that seem to defy the logic of waking life. While they slumber, let us continue our journey into the captivating world of dream science and the stories of those who have sought to unravel its mysteries. One of the most influential dreamers in the quest to understand the sleeping mind was the renowned psychiatrist Carl Jung. Born in 1875 in Switzerland, Jung initially began his career as a disciple of Sigmund Freud. However, as time went on, the two great thinkers developed diverging views on the nature and meaning of dreams. Where Freud saw dreams as expressions of repressed desires and unresolved conflicts from early childhood, Jung came to believe that dreams represented a doorway into the collective unconscious, a realm of shared symbolism and archetypes that transcended the individual psyche. Jung argued that the strange and often mythical imagery of dreams drew upon universal themes and motifs that could be found across cultures and throughout history. In his influential book, The Archetypes and the Collective Unconscious, published in 1934, Jung laid out his theory of how dreams tapped into this vast repository of human experience. He identified recurring characters like the wise old man, the nurturing mother, and the trickster that populated the dreamscapes of people around the world. To Jung, these figures represented fundamental aspects of the human condition that found expression in our nightly reveries. Jung's interest in dreams was deeply personal as well as professional. He kept detailed journals of his own vivid dreams and visions, which he believed held the keys to self-discovery and psychological growth. In his famous Red Book, Jung meticulously documented and illustrated the strange and often disturbing dreams that he experienced during a period of intense introspection following his split with Freud. Through his own dream work and his sessions with patients, Jung developed a method of interpretation that looked beyond the surface details of a dream to the deeper meanings and emotions it might represent. He encouraged his patients to engage with their dreams actively, to paint, draw, or write about the images and sensations they encountered in sleep. While some in the scientific community viewed Jung's ideas about dreams and the collective unconscious as more mystical than empirical, his work had a profound influence on the field of psychology and popular culture alike. The notion of shared dream symbolism and the importance of engaging with one's unconscious mind continues to resonate with many to this day. As our dreamer continues their nightly journey, the theater of their sleeping mind may indeed be drawing upon the same well of archetypal images and themes that fascinated Carl Jung. The characters and conflicts they encounter, however personal they might seem, may represent something far more universal, a connection to the vast, shared dreamscape of human experience. But Jung's theories were just one of many attempts to grapple with the enigma of dreams. As the 20th century progressed, new scientific tools and methods would open up fresh avenues for exploring the dreaming brain. The next major breakthrough in dream science would come not from the therapist's couch, but from the strange and often comical scene of the sleep laboratory. In the 1950s, a young researcher named Eugene Osorinsky, working under the famed sleep scientist Nathaniel Kleitman at the University of Chicago, made a curious discovery. While recording the eye movements of sleeping subjects, Osorinsky noticed that there were regular periods during the night when their eyes would dart back and forth rapidly beneath their closed lids, as if they were watching some invisible tennis match. Intrigued, Osorinsky and Kleitman embarked on a series of pioneering sleep studies to investigate this strange phenomenon. They recruited volunteers to spend nights in the lab, hooked up to early EEG machines that recorded their brainwaves as they slept. The researchers would wake the sleepers during these periods of rapid eye movement and ask them to report on what they had been experiencing. To their surprise, the vast majority of subjects awoken during these REM periods could recall vivid, often bizarre dreams. When woken at other times of the night, however, dream recall was much rarer. Osorinsky and Kleitman had stumbled upon a crucial link between dreaming and a specific stage of sleep marked by rapid eye movements and highly active brain waves similar to those of waking. The discovery of REM sleep launched a new era in dream science. Researchers around the world set up sleep labs to explore the nightly cycle of slow wave and REM sleep and to probe the connections between dreaming and memory, learning, and emotion. Volunteers spent nights in the lab with electrodes attached to their scalps as scientists watched the strange ballet of twitches and murmurs that accompanied each bout of REM. One of the most colorful and controversial figures in this new field of dream science was the French researcher Michel Jouvet. A neurophysiologist by training, Jouvet was fascinated by the mystery of why we dream and what purpose this nightly theater of the mind might serve. In a series of famous experiments in the 1960s, Jouvet studied the sleep patterns of cats, finding that they too experienced regular periods of REM, accompanied by strange, dreamlike behaviors. Jouvet observed that during REM, the cats' brains were highly active, but their bodies were paralyzed, save for occasional twitches and movements. He theorized that this paralysis served to keep the sleeping animals from physically acting out their dreams and potentially injuring themselves. This idea of REM sleep paralysis, or sleep atonia, remains an important concept in dream science today. But Jouvet's most provocative idea was that dreaming served a crucial function in the development and maintenance of the brain. He argued that the strange, often nonsensical narratives of dreams were a kind of programming language that helped to shape and update the neural networks of the brain, particularly in early life. Jouvet's theory was that the brain, during REM sleep, sent out random signals and impulses that were then woven into a narrative by the higher centers of the cortex, a process he called genetic programming. The resulting dream stories might not make logical sense, but they serve to stimulate and strengthen the brain's circuitry, much like a computer running through a complex program. While Jouvet's ideas about the purpose of dreaming remain speculative and controversial, His work helped to establish the importance of REM sleep and dreaming for brain function and development. Studies have since shown that REM sleep is particularly abundant in infancy and early childhood, a time of rapid brain growth and neural plasticity. Depriving young animals of REM sleep can lead to developmental abnormalities and cognitive deficits. As our dreamer continues to slumber, their brain is alive with activity, spinning out strange and wondrous tales that may, in some deeply enigmatic way, be part of the very process of maintaining and shaping their neural circuitry. The discoveries of pioneers like Oserinsky, Kleitman, and Jouvet opened up a new frontier in the study of dreams, one that scientists continue to explore to this day. But as much as we have learned about the dreaming brain in recent decades, many mysteries still remain. What is the connection between dreams and memory, emotion and creativity? Why do some people remember their dreams vividly while others rarely recall them at all? And what about those strange and often fascinating cases of individuals who claim to be aware that they are dreaming, and even able to shape the content of their dreams at will? As we will explore, the phenomenon of lucid dreaming has captivated researchers and dreamers alike for centuries. The idea of being conscious within a dream, of exploring the boundaries between fantasy and reality in the theater of the sleeping mind, has a long and storied history that intersects with the realms of science, art, and spirituality. One of the earliest accounts of lucid dreaming comes from the pages of the Tibetan Yogas of Dream and Sleep, a text that dates back over 1,000 years. In Tibetan Buddhist tradition, the practice of dream yoga is seen as a powerful tool for spiritual awakening and self-transformation. Adepts of this ancient art learn to recognize the illusory nature of their dreams and to use them as a kind of virtual reality simulator for training the mind. The Tibetan dream yogis developed a sophisticated system of techniques for inducing and maintaining lucid dreams. They would train themselves to periodically ask whether they were dreaming throughout the day, so that the habit would carry over into sleep. They also learned to look for subtle signs that they were in a dream, such as the ability to fly or the presence of strange and impossible objects. Once lucid in a dream, the yogis would use the opportunity to practice various spiritual exercises, such as meditation, visualization, and the cultivation of compassion. They saw the dream state as a kind of laboratory for the mind, a place where the usual constraints of physical reality were suspended and where mental training could be accelerated. While the Tibetan dream yogis were exploring the spiritual dimensions of lucid dreaming, the phenomenon remained largely unknown to Western science until the early 20th century. It was then that a Dutch psychiatrist named Frederik van Eeden coined the term lucid dream in a paper describing his own experiences of being aware during dreams. Van Eeden was fascinated by the potential of lucid dreaming for studying the nature of consciousness and the boundaries between the self and the world. He saw lucid dreams as a kind of bridge between the subjective realm of the mind and the objective reality of waking life. In lucid dreams, he argued, the dreamer was both the creator and the experiencer of a vivid, internally generated world. Despite Van Eeden's pioneering work, lucid dreaming remained a fringe topic in the scientific community for many decades. It wasn't until the 1970s and 80s that a young researcher named Stephen LaBerge would finally provide concrete evidence that lucid dreams were a real and measurable phenomenon. LaBerge, then a graduate student at Stanford University, had himself experienced lucid dreams since childhood. He was convinced that the phenomenon was real and that it could be studied scientifically. To prove his case, LaBerge devised a clever experiment that would allow him to send signals from within a lucid dream to the outside world. The key was eye movement. LaBerge knew that during REM sleep, the eyes dart back and forth rapidly, even though the rest of the body is paralyzed. He reasoned that if he could become lucid in a dream and then intentionally move his eyes in a prearranged pattern, this signal would be visible on the EOG electrooculogram recordings in the sleep lab. And so, in a series of nighttime experiments, LaBerge went to sleep in the lab, hooked up to an array of monitoring equipment. Whenever he realized he was dreaming, he would move his eyes left, right, a pattern that was unlikely to occur naturally in REM sleep. When the researchers reviewed the EOG data, they saw clear evidence of LaBerge's eye signals, time-stamped from within the dream. LaBerge's groundbreaking work established lucid dreaming as a legitimate field of scientific inquiry. He went on to found the Lucidity Institute, an organization dedicated to the study and promotion of lucid dreaming, and developed techniques for inducing lucid dreams that are still widely used today. One of LaBerge's key insights was that lucid dreaming is a learnable skill. Just like the Tibetan dream yogis, anyone can train themselves to become aware in dreams with enough practice and dedication. LaBerge developed a series of exercises and reality checks that would help dreamers to recognize when they were dreaming and to stabilize their lucidity once they achieved it. Today, the scientific study of lucid dreaming is a thriving field, with researchers around the world exploring its potential applications in areas like nightmare treatment, creative problem-solving, and even physical rehabilitation. Some scientists have even proposed using lucid dreams as a kind of virtual reality platform for conducting experiments on the nature of consciousness itself. As our dreamer continues to slumber, it's possible that they too may slip into a lucid dream, becoming aware of the marvelous world they have created in their own mind. Should they catch themselves in a dream, they might take a moment to marvel at the incredible capacity of the sleeping brain to generate such vivid and immersive experiences. And as they explore the dreamscape, they may ponder the many mysteries that still surround this nightly journey into the theater of the mind. For as much as we have learned about dreams and the dreaming brain, there is still so much that remains unknown, waiting to be discovered in the depths of sleep. Sigmund Freud, Carl Jung, Eugene Osorinsky, Nathaniel Kleitman, Michel Jouvet, Stephen LaBerge. These are just some of the great minds who have grappled with the enigma of dreams over the past century and more. Each of them, in their own way, has helped to shed light on this most intimate and yet most universal of human experiences. And yet, for all their groundbreaking work, the final frontier of dream science may lie not in the sleep lab or the therapist's office, but in the minds of dreamers themselves. For it is only by diving deep into our own dreams, by exploring the strange and wondrous worlds that unfold behind our closed eyes each night, that we can truly begin to unravel the mysteries of the dreaming brain. So let us leave our dreamer to their slumber, to the ongoing adventure that awaits them in the theater of the night. May their dreams be filled with wonder and insight, and may they awaken with a newfound appreciation for the incredible journey they undertake each time they drift off to sleep. As the philosopher and dream researcher Owen Flanagan once wrote, "Dreams are a reservoir of knowledge and experience, yet they are often overlooked as a vehicle for exploring reality. In the quiet hours of the night, as our minds spin out their fantastical tales, we are all explorers of this inner reality, all dreamers seeking to make sense of the mysterious world within. And so, as we bid good night to the dreaming brain, let us remember that the study of dreams is ultimately a study of ourselves, of the hopes, fears, and desires that animate our inner lives. In the words of the poet Edgar Allan Poe, all that we see or seem is but a dream within a dream. May we cherish the dreams that visit us in the night, and may they continue to inspire and enlighten us on this grand adventure of the human mind. As we've seen, dreams have fascinated humans for millennia, from ancient dream interpretation manuals to Freud's revolutionary theory connecting dreams to our deepest desires. But it wasn't until the 1950s that the true scientific study of dreams would begin in earnest, thanks to a surprising discovery made by a young researcher and his 8-year-old son. Eugene Osorinsky was a graduate student at the University of Chicago, studying the sleep patterns of infants by hooking them up to early EEG machines that recorded their brain waves throughout the night. One day, Osorinsky decided to bring his son Armand into the lab to run some tests on him as he slept. As Oserinsky watched his son's EEG readout, he noticed something strange. Periods where Armin's eyes would dart back and forth beneath his closed lids, almost as if the boy was looking around at some unseen dreamscape. Intrigued, Oserinsky connected more electrodes near Armin's eyes and recorded the first EEGs of what we now call rapid eye movement, or REM sleep. He noticed that these eye movements coincided with shallow, irregular breathing and brainwave activity that looked nearly identical to the patterns seen in waking life. Oserinsky immediately realized the potential significance of his discovery. Were these periods of REM sleep when dreaming occurred? And if so, what purpose did these nightly adventures of the mind serve? Presenting his findings to his skeptical supervisor, Nathaniel Kleitman, Oserinsky convinced Kleitman to do further research together. The two began studying other sleeping volunteers in the lab, waking them up during REM and non-REM periods to ask if they had been dreaming. The results were remarkable. Dreams were reported in nearly 80% of REM awakenings, compared to only 10% of non-REM awakenings. REM and dreaming, it seemed, were intimately connected. Over the following decade, sleep labs around the world would begin to unravel the mysteries of REM. In France, a researcher named Michel Jouvet identified REM across multiple animal species and argued for its crucial role in brain development. Studying cats, Jouvet observed that during REM, the felines' bodies would go limp and still, almost paralyzed, while their eyes darted around, paws twitched, and facial muscles contorted, as if acting out some secret drama of the mind. This REM paralysis, Jouvet realized, likely kept animals and humans alike from physically acting out their dreams and hurting themselves. Jouvet also discovered that depriving animals of REM appeared to cause a REM rebound effect, where they would experience longer and more frequent bouts of REM after the deprivation ended, as if the brain was trying to make up for lost time. Could REM and dreams really be so essential to our well-being? As EEG technology improved, researchers gained new windows into the dreaming brain. They could now see that compared to waking brain activity, the emotional centers of the brain lit up far more during REM, while brain regions involved in rational thinking and impulse control went quiet. No wonder dreams could feel so emotionally intense, yet logically incoherent. Soon, scientists began to explore the question that had captivated everyone from ancient mystics to Freud. Could dreams be linked to memory? A string of studies in sleep labs found evidence that REM did indeed seem to help consolidate certain kinds of memory, particularly emotional memories and procedural skills like playing an instrument or navigating a maze. Dreams also appeared to influence daytime problem-solving and creativity. The famous chemist Auguste Kekulé, for instance, claimed that his dream of a snake eating its own tail helped him discover the circular structure of the benzene molecule in 1865. And the renowned golfer Jack Nicklaus once said that the idea for his revolutionary golf swing came to him in a dream. But despite these tantalizing clues, nailing down a definitive purpose for dreams has proven elusive. In 1977, Harvard psychiatrists Alan Hobson and Robert McCarley proposed a radically different theory, that dreams arise from nothing more than random pulses of activity emanating from the brainstem, signals which the cortex then struggles to weave into some semi-coherent storyline. According to the activation synthesis model, as it came to be called, dreams might simply be the brain's attempt to make sense of all this nighttime noise, an epiphenomenon with no deeper function or meaning. The debate would rage on in sleep labs and psychology departments around the world, even as neuroimaging studies allowed researchers to begin decoding the contents of a person's dreams from brain scans alone. The ultimate reason we dream remained stubbornly out of reach. Were dreams simply a side effect of REM sleep? A method of emotional processing? A nightly rehearsal of important skills and memories? Or perhaps some combination of all of the above? As you lie in bed drifting off to sleep, these questions may cross your mind as well. And while the scientists continue to probe the mysteries of the dreaming brain, In a way, each night offers you the chance to explore those enigmas on your own internal journey. As your mind leaves the waking world behind and ventures into the uncharted lands of REM, following in the footsteps of every dreamer who has gone before you. So dream on, and may your dreaming mind find the answers that still elude the finest scientific instruments. The secrets of the night are yours to discover. As we've seen, the early 20th century brought the first major scientific theories aimed at unraveling the mysteries of dreams. Sigmund Freud, the father of psychoanalysis, published his seminal work, The Interpretation of Dreams, in 1900, arguing that dreams represent unconscious desires and conflicts bubbling up from the depths of the mind. For Freud, every dream had both a manifest content, the surface-level imagery and events experienced by the dreamer, and a hidden, latent content, the symbolic and often taboo unconscious wishes lying beneath. Freud believed that by analyzing a patient's dreams, he could shine a light on the dark corners of their psyche and help resolve their inner turmoil. One of the most famous examples of Freud's dream analysis comes from his own life. In a dream he called Irma's Injection, Freud envisioned himself at a party where he encountered a patient named Irma who was suffering from pains. In the dream, Freud examines Irma's throat and finds a large patch of white, interpreting it as a sign of diphtheria that he failed to diagnose. Upon awakening, Freud meticulously dissected the dream image by image, connecting each element to his own unresolved guilt, fears, and desires. The white patch in Irma's throat, he concluded, represented his anxiety over misdiagnosing his patient's condition in waking life. The dream was a manifestation of his unconscious mind, grappling with feelings of professional inadequacy. While Freud's provocative theories captured the public imagination and dominated the early days of dream science, they would not go unchallenged. Freud's one-time disciple Carl Jung eventually broke away to form his own school of thought, one that would see dreams not just as expressions of an individual's unconscious, but as tapping into a vast collective unconscious shared by all of humanity. For Jung, recurring symbols and archetypes in dreams, like the wise old man or the great mother, represented universal human experiences and themes that transcended any single person's psyche. Dreams, in Jung's view, were a window not just into the personal unconscious, but into the deepest layers of the human mind, connecting us to our ancestors and to each other. As the 20th century progressed, the Freudian and Jungian interpretations of dreams would be eclipsed by new theories rooted in biology and neuroscience. But the legacy of these two pioneering thinkers endures. They were among the first to approach dreams not as prophecies or divine messages, but as a real and vital expression of the human mind, one that could be rigorously analyzed and interpreted. In their wake, the next generation of researchers would venture even deeper into the dreaming brain, armed with new tools and determined to unravel its secrets. One of those crucial tools was the electroencephalograph, or EEG machine. First invented in the 1920s by German psychiatrist Hans Berger, the EEG allowed scientists to peek inside the sleeping mind by measuring its electrical activity. Patients would lie down in the early sleep laboratories with electrodes pasted to their scalps, the EEG machine whirring and scratching out zigzagging lines of data as they drifted off to sleep. It was in one of these labs in 1953 that a graduate student named Eugene Osorinsky made a fortuitous discovery. Osorinsky was studying the sleep patterns of infants at the University of Chicago by observing them throughout the night. One evening, with his 8-year-old son Armand in tow, Osorinsky noticed something peculiar. At regular intervals, the sleeping baby's eyes would dart back and forth rapidly beneath their closed lids, flickering as if they were watching an invisible tennis match. Intrigued, Osorinsky hooked his young son up to the EEG machine and waited for him to fall asleep. As Armand's eyes began to flutter in that telltale way, Osorinsky watched in astonishment as the EEG readout suddenly erupted with activity, the boy's brain waves accelerating to a near-waking state. Working with his advisor Nathaniel Kleitman, Oserinsky linked these periods of rapid eye movement, or REM, to dreaming. Waking up subjects during REM yielded vivid dream reports far more often than rousing them at other times. Something profound seemed to be happening in the brain during these REM periods, some secret clockwork mechanism of the mind ticking away behind those frantically fluttering eyelids. The discovery of REM sleep touched off a frenzy of research into dreams and the nocturnal dramas playing out in sleeping brains. In sleep labs across the country, volunteers spent nights hooked up to EEG machines and other monitoring devices, roused at intervals to report on their dreams. Scientists eagerly probed the connection between REM, dreaming, and other cognitive functions like memory and learning. In France, a researcher named Michel Jouvet found evidence of REM sleep in a surprising array of animals, from cats to opossums to hedgehogs. The REM state appeared to be an ancient and deeply conserved part of mammalian biology, spurring theories that it played a crucial role in brain development and maintenance. But what exactly was happening in the brain during REM, and why did it give rise to such vivid dreams? As EEG technology gave way to more sophisticated imaging tools like PET scans and fMRI, in the late 20th century, researchers were able to watch the dreaming brain in action with unprecedented clarity. They discovered that far from falling into a deep, quiet slumber, parts of the brain actually become highly active during REM sleep, lighting up with electrical and metabolic activity. The visual cortex, the emotion processing limbic system, and regions involved in memory and spatial perception all spring to life, while the rational prefrontal cortex powers down. It's as if the sleeping brain is dipping into a rich inner world of imagery, sensation, and feeling, unconstrained by the logic of waking life. At the same time, motor neurons are suppressed, leaving dreamers temporarily paralyzed, a safety mechanism to stop us from physically acting out our dreams. This portrait of the REM dreaming brain suggested tantalizing links to other aspects of our mental lives. Could dreams be a way for the brain to process and consolidate new memories from the day? To rehearse important skills and behaviors? To work through difficult emotions and experiences on a symbolic level? Evidence began to accumulate for all of these theories. Researchers found that depriving rats of REM sleep impaired their ability to learn and remember complex maze pathways. Human subjects taught a challenging sequence of finger movements showed improvement after a night of REM-rich sleep and dreaming. The content of dreams often drew heavily from recent experiences, suggesting a role in memory encoding. But for every new insight, deeper questions remained. Did dreaming itself serve a crucial function? Or was it merely a side effect of REM sleep's real work behind the scenes? Why did we experience dreams as vivid sensory adventures rather than abstract information processing? And what explained the baffling, sometimes bizarre content of dreams themselves? The sudden scene changes, the characters morphing into each other, the sense of profound meaning in apparently nonsensical events? As the 20th century gave way to the 21st, a new generation of dream researchers were taking up the challenge, armed with powerful neuroimaging tools and a growing understanding of the brain's inner workings. They would build on the work of pioneers like Freud, Jung, Oserinsky, and Jouvet, but take dream science in bold new directions, from the neuroscience lab to the depths of the unconscious mind. One of the most influential theories to emerge was the activation synthesis model, proposed by Harvard psychiatrists Alan Hobson and Robert McCarley in the late 1970s. Hobson and McCarley argued that dreams arise from the random firing of neurons in the brainstem during REM sleep, sending chaotic signals up to the cortex. The higher brain, in an attempt to make sense of this neural noise, synthesizes it into a narrative, drawing on memories and emotions to craft the vivid stories we experience as dreams. In other words, dreams might simply be the brain's best attempt to stitch together a coherent experience from the buzzing, disjointed activity of REM sleep. While the activation synthesis theory challenged the idea that dreams contain deep hidden meanings, it didn't entirely negate the psychological significance of dreaming. The mental narratives we create, even from random brain activity, could still reflect our preoccupations, fears, and desires. Our dreaming mind might simply be revealing itself more obliquely than Freud and Jung believed. And what vivid and imaginative stories our dreaming brains can tell. We've all experienced the sudden shifts in scene, the impossible physics, the strange juxtapositions that characterize so many dreams. In one moment, we're flying effortlessly over a familiar cityscape. The next, we're back in our childhood home engaged in conversation with a long-lost relative who has the face of a Hollywood celebrity. Though they confound our waking sense of logic, the preposterous events and images that populate our dreams have also been sources of creative insight throughout history. The renowned chemist Auguste Kekulé famously hit upon the ring-like structure of the benzene molecule after daydreaming about a snake biting its own tail. Paul McCartney credits a vivid dream with giving him the melody for the Beatles' song Yesterday. But dreams are not always a wellspring of inspiration. For some, they can be a source of terror, anguish, and lost sleep. Recurring nightmares plague an estimated 5 to 8% of the population, conjuring up frightening or disturbing imagery night after night. Common themes include being chased or attacked, falling from great heights, or arriving unprepared for an important event like an exam. Nightmares are often associated with high levels of stress, anxiety, and trauma. A classic example comes from the diaries of Samuel Pepys, the 17th century English administrator who chronicled the Great Fire of London in 1666. In the harrowing days of the blaze, as Pepys worked frantically to help coordinate the city's response, his entries are laced with accounts of vivid anxiety dreams about the destruction. Up at 3 a.m. from dreams of fire, Pepys wrote on September 4th, 2 days into the inferno that would eventually consume much of central London. In another entry, he describes great disturbance of mind in my sleep, dreaming of the fire and the trouble I was in about it. Severe nightmares are a common symptom of post-traumatic stress disorder, forcing sufferers to relive terrifying or traumatic experiences long after the actual danger has passed. But for all the anguish they cause, studying trauma-related dreams has also yielded crucial insights into the brain's mechanisms for processing fear and anxiety. Research has shown that nightmares following trauma tend to occur during REM sleep, with its heightened activity in emotion-related brain regions like the amygdala. This has led some scientists to propose that dreaming and REM sleep more broadly plays a role in regulating negative emotions and promoting psychological resilience in the face of stress. There's evidence to support this theory. Studies have found that intervening with chronic nightmare sufferers using techniques like image rehearsal therapy, where patients are taught to mentally re-script frightening dreams, can significantly reduce nightmare frequency and intensity. The act of confronting and gaining control over the content of one's dreams seems to have real therapeutic value. Control is also at the heart of one of the most intriguing and mysterious dream phenomena, lucid dreaming. Lucid dreamers report being aware that they're dreaming while the dream is still happening, and even being able to influence its content and direction. It's like realizing you're inside a virtual reality simulation and discovering you have the power to manipulate the code. The term lucid dreaming was coined by the Dutch psychiatrist Frederik van Eden in 1913, but the concept is far older. Tibetan Buddhists have cultivated lucid dreaming as a spiritual practice for over 1,000 years, regarding it as a way to gain insight into the illusory nature of reality and the self. In the West, lucid dreaming was long dismissed as a myth or curiosity until the 1970s, when psychophysiologist Stephen LaBerge conducted a series of groundbreaking experiments at Stanford University. LaBerge devised a clever way for dreamers to communicate with researchers from within the dream state, a predetermined pattern of eye movements that could be detected by instruments in the sleep lab. By teaching himself to become lucid in his dreams and performing this eye signal, LaBerge was able to prove that lucid dreaming is a genuine phenomenon, one that occurs during REM sleep and involves a distinct pattern of brain activity. His work opened up a whole new frontier in dream research, offering a tantalizing glimpse into the mind's ability to shape its own nocturnal adventures. Today, a small but passionate community of lucid dreaming enthusiasts around the world use techniques like reality checks and dream signs to train their sleeping minds to recognize the dream state. Some pursue lucid dreams for creative inspiration or pure escapism, while others see it as a tool for overcoming fears, rehearsing skills, or promoting personal growth. But lucid dreaming remains a relatively rare and elusive phenomenon, experienced regularly by only a small fraction of the population. For most of us, dreams remain a nightly mystery, a strange and sometimes wondrous land populated by characters and creations of our sleeping brains. So where does dream science stand today, over a century after Freud first shone a light into their shadowy depths? We've traced dreams to the distinctive neurochemistry of REM sleep, mapped the dreaming brain in vivid detail, and shown how they interact with memory, emotion, and even creative problem-solving. But in many ways, the fundamental questions about dreams remain as vexing as ever. Do they serve some essential purpose, some vital function for our brains or our psyches? Or are they simply a quirky byproduct of sleep's complex choreography, a cognitive spillover from the important neural housekeeping that happens in the night? There are no shortage of theories, from the psychoanalytic to the evolutionary to the neuroscientific. Some researchers argue that dreams are crucial for memory consolidation, helping the brain sift through the day's experiences and encode important learnings. Others see them as a form of overnight therapy, a chance to process difficult emotions and rehearse responses to stressful or threatening situations. More speculatively, some scientists have proposed that dreams might serve as a kind of virtual reality simulator, a way for the brain to explore different scenarios and hone important skills in a low-stakes environment. By this logic, the preposterous events and physics-defying feats that characterize many dreams could actually be adaptive, allowing us to practice challenges and opportunities we're unlikely to encounter in waking life. But there's also a case to be made that dreams, for all their drama and mystery, are simply a kind of mental spillover, a side effect of the brain continuing to process memories and emotions even as the body rests. The bizarre, illogical content of many dreams could simply reflect the sleeping brain's struggle to make sense of the random neural noise that bubbles up during REM sleep. One way to potentially settle the question would be to study people who don't dream at all. While rare, there are cases of individuals who report little or no dream recall, even when awoken from REM sleep in the lab. Comparing the memory, emotional regulation, and cognitive function of these non-dreamers to the general population could offer clues to what, if anything, dreams contribute to our mental lives. As it stands, the jury is still out on the true purpose and function of dreams, but that hasn't stopped some researchers from exploring ways to harness their potential. The emerging field of dream engineering aims to develop techniques and technologies for influencing the content and direction of dreams, whether to promote creativity, treat nightmares, or even implant targeted messages. Already, some studies have shown that it's possible to manipulate dreams by delivering sensory cues during REM sleep. One experiment found that introducing certain smells into dreamers' environments could shape the emotional tone of their dreams, with pleasant scents like roses producing more positive dream content. Other researchers are investigating ways to incubate specific dream themes or skills by having subjects focus on certain tasks or ideas before bed. Athletes, for example, might visualize a perfect performance of their sport in the hopes that rehearsing it in their dreams will translate to improved real-world execution. The sci-fi prospect of dream advertising, where marketers pay to place products or brand messages in sleeping minds, has even been floated, though the technical and ethical barriers to such an intervention remain formidable. But as our understanding of the dreaming brain advances, the possibilities for shaping and harnessing dreams are sure to expand. For now, dreams remain one of the great frontiers of human experience, a nightly portal into a strange and fascinating world conjured up by our own minds. As we've traced their journey from divine messages to neurochemical echoes, From Freud's consulting room to the glowing screens of fMRI scanners, one thing has remained constant: the sheer wonder and mystery of the dreaming experience. Every night, as we close our eyes and drift off to sleep, we embark on a voyage into the unknown, guided only by the extraordinary storytelling powers of our brains. We fly and fall, confront our deepest fears, and indulge our wildest fantasies, all while our bodies lie motionless in the dark. And then, as morning light begins to seep into our bedrooms and the alarm clock stirs us from slumber, the dream fades like mist under the sun. The impossible architectures crumble, the otherworldly creatures wink out of existence. The tangled plot lines recede into the shadows of our minds. We awaken, grasping at the fragments of the dream even as it slips away, trying to make sense of the bizarre odyssey we've just undergone. Some mornings, we may have little more than a vague sense of the emotional tenor of the dream, a half-remembered wisp of. As the dreamer drifts deeper into slumber, the lines between reality and the world of dreams blur until they disappear entirely. The mind embarks on a journey into a realm where the impossible becomes possible, and the ordinary transforms into the extraordinary. For centuries, people have pondered the significance of these nightly voyages into the surreal. In ancient civilizations across the globe, dreams were often seen as messages from deities or glimpses into the future. The Egyptians believed that the gods communicated with humans through dreams, and that skilled interpreters could decipher these cryptic messages. Dream interpretation manuals, like the Chester Beatty Papyrus from around 1350 BCE, offered guidance on decoding the symbolism of dreams. The ancient Greeks also viewed dreams as prophetic. In Homer's epic poem, The Odyssey, Penelope has a dream foretelling the return of her husband Odysseus after a 20-year absence. However, the Greek philosopher Aristotle proposed a different perspective. In his treatise On Dreams, Aristotle suggested that dreams might originate from within the dreamer rather than from divine sources. He believed that sensory impressions from waking life could reappear in dreams, although often in distorted forms. Aristotle's musings foreshadowed a crucial shift in thinking about dreams that would emerge many centuries later with the birth of modern psychology. In 1900, Sigmund Freud, a Viennese neurologist, published his groundbreaking book, The Interpretation of Dreams. Freud's provocative theory argued that dreams represent unconscious desires, often of a sexual nature. According to Freud, the mind censors and disguises these hidden longings, leading to the strange and symbolic imagery we experience in dreams. Freud distinguished between the manifest content of a dream, the bizarre plot unfolding in the dreamer's mind, and the latent content which he believed revealed the underlying unconscious wish. Through the process of free association, Freud believed the dreamer could uncover the true meaning of the dream and gain insight into their own psychology. The story of Freud analyzing his own famous dream, Irma's injection, illustrates his approach. In the dream, Freud meets his patient Irma at a party and examines her. He discovers a patch of white in her throat and calls for his medical colleagues to take a look. Freud interpreted this anxiety-filled dream as expressing his guilt over failing to properly treat Irma's condition. By examining his own dream, Freud demonstrated his method of using dreams as a window into the unconscious mind. However, Freud's ideas about dreams did not go unchallenged. His contemporary Carl Jung proposed a different theory. While Freud emphasized dreams' roots in personal experiences and desires, Jung saw them as springing from what he called the collective unconscious, a reservoir of shared symbols and archetypes common to all humans. Jung believed that dreams could offer insight not just into an individual's psychology, but into universal human experiences and spiritual development. As the 20th century progressed, new scientific tools would expand the study of dreams beyond these early psychological theories. A major breakthrough occurred in the 1950s at the University of Chicago. There, graduate student Eugene Aserinsky and his advisor, Nathaniel Kleitman, made a surprising discovery while studying sleeping infants. They observed that at regular intervals throughout the night, the baby's eyes would dart back and forth beneath their closed lids, as if watching an invisible tennis match. Intrigued, Oserinsky and Kleitman began studying sleeping adults. They found that these periods of rapid eye movement, or REM, occurred in 90-minute cycles throughout the night. Furthermore, when sleepers were awakened during REM, they often reported vivid dreams. This landmark finding suggested a strong link between dreaming and a specific stage of sleep characterized by brainwave patterns similar to waking. Oserinsky and Kleitman's discovery opened up a new frontier in dream research. Scientists began studying volunteers in sleep laboratories, monitoring their brain waves, eye movements, and muscle activity throughout the night. They could now pinpoint the times when a sleeper was most likely to be dreaming and wake them up to gather dream reports. At the same time, French neurophysiologist Michel Jouvet was conducting his own pioneering studies. Jouvet found that REM sleep occurred in many other animals besides humans. Cats, rats, and even birds showed similar cycles of REM throughout the night. This finding suggested that REM sleep and dreaming had deep evolutionary roots and might serve important functions in brain development and processing. As more volunteers spent nights in sleep labs hooked up to EEG machines, certain patterns began to emerge. Dreaming seemed to be most frequent and vivid during REM sleep, characterized by an active brain and paralyzed muscles. However, dreams could also occur during non-REM or NREM sleep, particularly in the later parts of the night. The discovery of REM sleep launched a golden age of dream research in the 1960s and 70s. Scientists began exploring the potential functions of dreaming, particularly its role in memory and emotional processing. A series of studies found that REM sleep seemed to be important for consolidating certain types of memories, particularly emotional memories and procedural skills, like playing a musical instrument. Throughout history, there have been many anecdotes of artists and scientists gaining creative breakthroughs from their dreams. The famous chemist Auguste Kekulé, for example, claimed that a dream of a snake biting its own tail helped him discover the ring-like structure of the benzene molecule in 1862. The composer Giuseppe Tartini supposedly dreamed that the devil appeared to him and played a hauntingly beautiful violin sonata, which Tartini then wrote down from memory upon awakening. While such dramatic stories are rare, there is growing evidence that sleep and dreaming do seem to boost creative problem-solving. In one study, volunteers were awakened during REM sleep and asked to solve anagram puzzles. They showed greater flexibility in their thinking and a higher success rate compared to when asked to solve the same puzzles while awake. As brain imaging technology advanced in the late 20th century, neuroscientists began to study the dreaming brain in even greater detail. They found that different regions of the brain showed distinct patterns of activation during REM sleep compared to wakefulness or NREM sleep. In particular, areas involved in visual processing, emotion, and memory showed heightened activity, while regions involved in rational thought and self-awareness were subdued. These findings led some researchers, like Harvard psychiatrist Alan Hobson, to propose that dreams arise from the brain's attempt to make sense of random neural firing originating in the brainstem during REM. According to Hobson's activation synthesis theory, dreams are essentially the cortex's best guess at weaving a coherent narrative out of the chaotic signals it receives from lower brain regions. More recently, scientists have even begun attempting to decode the content of dreams from brain activity. In one groundbreaking study, Japanese researchers used fMRI scans to predict with over 60% accuracy whether sleepers' dreams contained certain common objects like cars, books, or furniture. While this field is still in its infancy, it raises the tantalizing prospect of one day being able to peer directly into a dreamer's world. But the human mind's nocturnal journeys are not always filled with wonder and inspiration. For some, dreams can take a darker turn into the realm of nightmares. Most people experience occasional bad dreams, but for around 5% of the population, frequent nightmares are a serious problem that disrupt sleep and waking well-being. Studies have found certain common themes and images cropping up in the nightmares of people across cultures. Threats like monsters or intruders, feelings of falling or drowning, or the classic dream of being naked in public seem to reflect universal human fears and anxieties. Nightmares are also associated with mental health conditions like anxiety, depression, and post-traumatic stress disorder. Throughout history, people have chronicled particularly vivid and disturbing dreams during times of stress or upheaval. The renowned diarist Samuel Pepys recorded a string of nightmares during the Great Fire of London in 1666. For days after the devastating blaze, Pepys dreamed he saw the city in flames and people screaming in the streets. His dreams seemed to reflect the collective trauma and anxiety of a city grappling with disaster. In recent years, researchers have developed therapies to help chronic nightmare sufferers find relief. One promising treatment is imagery rehearsal therapy, where patients are taught to re-script the storyline of a recurring nightmare to give it a more positive ending. Over time and with practice, many see a reduction in nightmare frequency and intensity. But while some dreamers may wish for an escape from their nightly horrors, others actively seek out awareness and control within the dream world. Lucid dreaming, where the sleeper recognizes they are dreaming and can influence the dream's events, has fascinated people for centuries. The term lucid dreaming itself was coined in 1913 by the Dutch psychiatrist Frederik van Eden, who was intrigued by his own experiences of realizing he was dreaming and guiding the dream narrative. But accounts of dream control stretch back much further in history. Tibetan Buddhists have practiced techniques for inducing lucid dreams as a path to spiritual insight and liberation for over 1,000 years. In the West, lucid dreaming was long dismissed as a myth or curiosity. But in the 1970s, Stanford University researcher Stephen LaBerge began a series of groundbreaking experiments that proved lucid dreaming was a genuine phenomenon. By training himself to perform specific eye movements in his dreams, LaBerge was able to send signals from the dream world to the waking researchers monitoring his REM sleep. LaBerge went on to pioneer techniques for inducing lucid dreams and founded the Lucidity Institute to promote research and education on the subject. Today, a dedicated community of lucid dream enthusiasts share tips and tricks for hacking into their dreams. Some use the dream world as a playground for fantastical adventures or even a testing ground to rehearse for waking challenges. As researchers continue to probe the boundaries of human dreams, they have also turned their attention to the animal kingdom. Since the discovery of REM sleep, scientists have identified similar patterns of brain activity and muscle paralysis in creatures ranging from cats to octopuses. This suggests that some form of dreaming may be widespread throughout the animal world. The famous French neuroscientist Michel Jouvet conducted some of the most striking studies on animal dreams in the 1960s. By manipulating the brainstems of cats, Jouvet could suppress the paralysis that normally occurs during REM sleep. He observed that the cats would start to move and twitch as if acting out their dreams, leading him to dub REM the paradoxical sleep stage. More recently, scientists have found evidence of REM-like brain activity in birds and even reptiles. The duck-billed platypus, a strange egg-laying mammal, experiences an unusual pattern of REM that occurs in bursts throughout the day rather than in consolidated periods at night. Many marine mammals like dolphins and whales appear to have unihemispheric sleep, where one half of the brain rests while the other remains alert, making their dream lives an intriguing mystery. In humans, REM sleep and dreaming appear to be particularly important in early life. Newborns spend around half their sleep time in REM, compared to just a quarter for adults. Some researchers believe this intense dreaming plays a crucial role in brain development, helping to strengthen neural connections and process the flood of new sensory experiences. But while dreaming clearly holds deep evolutionary roots, its ultimate purpose remains an enduring mystery. Some researchers argue that dreams are simply an epiphenomenon, a meaningless byproduct of the brain processes that occur during sleep. Others contend that dreaming plays a vital role in emotional regulation, problem solving, or even in rehearsing responses to potential threats. To truly unravel the function of dreams, some scientists have proposed studying the rare cases of people who claim to never dream at all. A small percentage of individuals report little or no dream recall throughout their lives, a condition known as dreaming asynsthymia. By comparing the sleep patterns and cognitive abilities of these dreamless individuals to those of regular dreamers, researchers hope to tease apart the specific impacts of dreaming. As our scientific understanding of dreams continues to evolve, some researchers have begun to ponder the implications of dream engineering. Could we one day develop techniques to reliably influence the content and emotional tone of dreams? Might targeted dream interventions be used to boost creativity, process trauma, or even treat psychiatric conditions? Already, some studies have hinted at the potential of manipulating dreams. In one experiment, researchers used specific sound cues during sleep to trigger dreams associated with those sounds. Sleepers played a sound linked to a memory game, for example, had dreams about the game and showed improved performance on the task the next day. The prospect of dream engineering raises profound ethical questions. Dreams have long been seen as a deeply personal space, an inner realm shielded from the intrusions of the waking world. The ability to shape or control dreams could be a double-edged sword, offering therapeutic benefits but also the potential for misuse. As the secrets of the dreaming brain continue to unspool, one thing remains clear. The nightly odyssey into the dream world will never lose its power to fascinate, puzzle, and inspire. For as long as humans have pondered the mysteries of the mind, dreams have offered a glimpse into the strange and often beautiful world that lies beneath the surface of consciousness. Perhaps in the end, the study of dreams is as much about understanding the depths of human imagination and creativity as it is about the nuts and bolts of neuroscience. The dream world may always retain an element of mystery, a reminder that the human mind is capable of conjuring up visions and experiences far beyond the bounds of waking life. As the dreamer slowly emerges from the depths of sleep, the vivid dreamscapes that seemed so real only moments ago begin to fade like mist in the morning sun. The fragments of narrative and emotion that felt so urgent and meaningful start to slip away, leaving only fleeting impressions and half-remembered images. But while the specific details of the dream may dissolve in the light of day, the sense of having been on a profound inner journey lingers. That brief voyage into the uncharted waters of the unconscious mind leaves its mark, even if its ultimate meaning remains elusive. And so the cycle continues, night after night. As sleep claims us once more, the dreaming mind reawakens, ready to embark on yet another adventure into the realms of the fantastic, the impossible, and the deeply personal. The mysteries of the dream world beckon, promising a nightly portal into the hidden depths of the self. Perhaps the study of dreams will never yield definitive answers, but the pursuit of understanding is a worthy end in itself. For in exploring the enigmas of the sleeping brain, we are ultimately exploring the boundless potential and creativity of the human mind. And that is a quest that will continue to captivate scientists and dreamers alike for generations to come. As we've seen, the study of dreams has come a long way since the early days of Freud and Jung. With each passing decade, sleep scientists have peeled back another layer of the mystery, revealing the intricate dance of brain waves, eye movements, and neurochemicals that give rise to our nightly visions. But even with all these advances, dreams still retain an air of the unknown, a sense that we've only just begun to glimpse the edges of a vast, uncharted territory of the mind. Perhaps that's part of what draws us to dreams, what keeps us fascinated by the strange and surreal landscapes we inhabit each night. Dreams are, in a sense, the ultimate frontier, an inner world as vast and unexplored as the depths of the oceans or the far reaches of space. And like any good explorer, the dream researchers of today are driven by that same spirit of curiosity and wonder. They are the cartographers of consciousness, mapping the contours of the dreaming brain, one EEG reading and fMRI scan at a time. With each new study and experiment, they bring us one step closer to answering the fundamental questions that have echoed through the ages. Why do we dream, and what do our dreams mean? Of course, it's possible we may never have definitive answers to these questions. Dreams, after all, are deeply personal, shaped by the unique twists and turns of our individual lives and psyches. What a dream means for one person may be radically different from what it means for another. But that doesn't make the pursuit of dream knowledge any less valuable or fascinating. Because in studying dreams, we are really studying ourselves, the hopes, fears, desires, and memories that swirl beneath the surface of our waking minds. And so the work continues in sleep labs and universities around the world, as scientists continue to probe the mysteries of the dreaming brain. Who knows what new discoveries and insights await us in the years to come? Perhaps one day we will have a truly comprehensive understanding of why we dream and what our dreams are trying to tell us. But until then, we can take comfort in the fact that every night, as we drift off to sleep, we are embarking on a journey into the unknown, a voyage through the uncharted waters of our own inner world. And what a wondrous journey it is, full of sights and sounds and emotions that defy the logic of waking life. In our dreams, we are free to be anyone, go anywhere, and experience anything our minds can conjure up. So the next time you find yourself awash in the strange and surreal dreamscapes of your own sleeping mind, take a moment to marvel at the mystery and magic of it all. For in that moment, you are a pioneer, an explorer of the infinite realms of the unconscious. And who knows what wonders you may discover there? What hidden truths about yourself and your world may be waiting to be uncovered in the secret language of your dreams? As we close out this journey through the fascinating world of dream science and the sleeping brain, I invite you to embrace the mystery and wonder of your own nightly voyages. Keep a dream journal, share your stories with others, and never stop marveling at the incredible gift of your dreaming mind. And if you've enjoyed exploring the science of dreams with me, I hope you'll consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel. There's always more boring science to help lull you to sleep, and I'd be honored to be your guide on many more bedtime adventures to come. But for now, I wish you sweet dreams and a restful night. May your dreaming mind take you to wondrous places, and may you wake refreshed and inspired, ready to make your waking world just a little bit more like the world of your dreams. Good night, my curious friends, until we meet again in the land of Nod.